Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Tru Offseason. Now that the dust has settled a bit on the NFL draft, Chase and I wanted to talk about who had the best offseason. And maybe it's still a little too early to determine. There's still free agents that are being signed. We still have OTAs and mini camp and training camp and all that kind of stuff. And we know Hard Knocks is going to talk about all of that, but maybe it's a little too soon. But we wanted to get here and talk about who we felt had the best offseason. And of course, when I say we, I'm talking about myself. I'm talking about Chase Oliver. Chase, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing good, man. Can't wait to talk about this great NFL offseason. The dumb optimism. We just see people sign and we're like, oh, wow, I can't believe they got this player, and then you're just so optimistic, and then it doesn't perform on the field, and you're like, what happened? So I love the dumb optimism.
Yeah,
I don't think any other sport.
I firmly believe right now that RJ Harvey is going to have more scrimmage yards than any other running back that got drafted. So
Yeah, like I don't think there's any other sport like at all that can give you more dumb optimism than off-season football. Like basketball teams, they'll sign players, and unless like it's a star, you don't really get excited. It's like oh cool, my team added Jeff Teague. It's not like you're like, oh man, Jeff Teague, he was the missing piece. It's like whatever. In football, it'd be like can you believe the Patriots got Milton Williams? And it's like, oh man, that's a huge leap for them. It's like, what are we doing? Like we're just like that's what football offseason does. Dude, like freaking.
Honestly, it's funny that you say this because Colleen, before she went to work today, she wanted to go for like just a quick walk around the neighborhood because it's like decent weather outside. So we're walking, and just offhandedly, I go, "Man, I just wish summer was over." And she goes, "Why? So you could watch your stupid football?" And I said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's exactly why." Now, granted, she loves the summer. She loves doing, going out, doing all kinds of things, and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, she's going to take umbrage at what I'm saying. But to your point, I was just like, I really don't like. I'm not really. I grew up in South Florida. I don't like the heat. So like, there's really no reason for me to do anything in the summer unless it's for my wife. So
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about June, July, like there's really nothing except for like, I mean, because I was in the Army, Flag Day, Independence Day, it's got a little special place in the
Yeah.
heart. But like besides that, I could care less. I'm already like, and now I've had some conversations with you about Devi developmental dynasty football. I'm already like thinking about a couple weeks before the actual football season when college starts. I'm like, no, I really need to start watching these things. So there's so much out there, and we want to thank everybody for watching here tonight because you could have been, the classic, you could have been anywhere in the world. It's a Saturday night, summer is hitting, spring is hitting, and you could be anywhere. But if you're here with us, we appreciate all of you guys here on the True Heel Heat Sports and Entertainment channel. And we wanted to talk about who had the best offseason. And I got to say, I did not ask Romeo to do this, but I'm just going to put the background up for a second again. I do appreciate that for all the pictures he could have picked for the Raiders, he put Mark Davis. Like, I don't know why exactly, but we get to look at Mark Davis's goofy ass face. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, you could have put Brady. Come on, put the owner.
And I'm saying to him, I'm like, you could. I said, thanks for putting Mark Davis. He goes, nobody knows who the Raiders GM is. I'm like, yeah, but Pete Carroll was available. Like, you could have put Pete Carroll.
Could have put Brady. You could have just either put Tom Brady. People would put two and two together.
But before we get into the news or our analysis of who had the best offseason, there's a few little news items here and there that so that we got to talk about. And for starters, and I don't want to say old nemesis, but an old fun person to watch for Chase and I, Derek Carr. He announced his retirement, and he spent a number of years with the Las Vegas, or at the time Oakland, Raiders, and then moved over to New Orleans when the Raiders finally realized that he was pretty much terrible and could not get them far in the playoffs at all. And now he has announced his retirement. He did, I don't want to speak ill in that sense because he is retiring due to medical reasons and injuries that have piled up. But it does leave the New Orleans Saints, I wouldn't say in a bit of a lurch, but I think they knew the writing was on the wall that he definitely was not going to be playing for some games this season, but the idea that he would be fully retired, I don't think they necessarily fully anticipated that. But the Tyler Shuck draft choice now makes a lot more sense because you really can't, even if Derek was going to miss like 6 games, 8 games, you can't go into those games really with Spencer Rattler. You and I both saw Spencer Rattler play against our teams last year. And granted, the Broncos and the Chargers defenses last year were 2 of the best defensive units in the league. So, like, maybe it's not that fair of a measuring stick, but that dude looked rough. And now at least they're kind of able to re-roll the dice a little bit on the quarterback situation with Tyler. So do you have any fond memories of Derek Carr as we bid his chapter of the NFL story as we close that chapter? Do you have any fun stories or fun memories of Mr. Derek Carr?
Oh man, dude, he cost me a fantasy championship when he got injured. So I'll just say that, to be honest. But hey, look, he was fine. He did his part. That one year when he was looked like an MVP candidate, and it felt like, oh wow, he's going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. That was fun, but then it never really panned out afterwards. Like just the injuries and stuff, and his time in New Orleans was hilarious. For all the wrong reasons, it was just fun to kind of laugh at him. It sucks. He was the last quarterback where there would be very good quarterback debates. Like, no, he's top 10. No, he's not. And you would argue with people for days about, like, no other quarterback got a reaction like Derek Carr like this. Like, Herbert sometimes with, like, if you try to put him in top 5, but then if you argue Herbert's top 10, people would just kind of settle down. But with Carr, I would be in so many football chats, and it would just be huge debate about this guy. It's like, I don't know if there's a quarterback that'll fill that void of just
before you got to the sports chat that you are now in with myself and Josh and everyone. I famously said that I considered Derek Carr a top 15 quarterback, and that turned into a whole running bit. Even at the start of the True Elite Sports Entertainment channel, the very first show that JJ, Romeo, and I were doing. It was part of that show was the running joke of some people from that chat, the Austins, the RJs of the world, making jokes about how Derek Carr was top 10. And this was 2-3 years ago when we first started the channel. So like it's been a running thing. So we saw him play against our teams multiple times every single year. It was kind of obvious where his ceiling was. Now, if you surrounded him with talent, I mean, if you surround anybody with talent, there's ways that you can work around someone's limitations. But for Derek, it seemed to be that he could not get past the ceiling, so to speak, of that he found himself in. And so, congratulations, sir, on earning more money than most, not just in the world, but just Americans who already make more money than pretty much per capita the rest of the world. But congratulations on making way more money than the average American will in their lifetime. And I hope that the injuries do not affect you when you are, getting older and trying to do things with your kids, because that's really, quality of life is a thing.
I think with these new things that are going on in college, where college are getting GMs now. Hey man, he could easily become Fresno State's GM, man. That program needs a lot of help. And Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, I said this before. Like, I actually have more fond memories of Derek Carr in college than I really do in the NFL, because I would watch like the Fresno State games with Tim and Devontae Adams, and that's one of the best like quarterback wide receiver duos in college football history. Like, I tell people this, and everyone's like, "What?" I'm like, "No, dude, you watch those games, and you would just see Carr and Adams, like, oh my, it was electric. Like, that was like a treat. Like, after watching these stressful SEC games, a big ACC matchup, a Big Ten matchup that went 6-3, you watch some Mountain West football or some Pac-12 after dark, and you're just watching Derek Carr and Devontae Adams just smoke all these people. It was so great. I have more fond memories of Carr in college than really like the NFL. In the NFL, he was fine, but yeah, like, we're gonna miss his void of just having arguments just for the sake of arguments.
This not to draw us too far off on a tangent, but the old Around the NFL podcast that was on part of the actual NFL. For a while there, they had what they called the Dalton line, where if you had a quarterback and the quarterback, and granted, this is from like, 10, say the past, it was back when Dalton was in Cincinnati, put it that way.
Yeah.
So the Dalton scale is basically, if your quarterback was better than Andy Dalton, you didn't need to draft a quarterback. And if your quarterback was worse than Andy Dalton, you needed to draft a quarterback. So similar to what you're saying about that void of Derek Carr, I think Derek Carr actually kind of became the new Andy Dalton in a sense.
Yeah.
After Dalton became basically a backup quarterback, where it was like if your quarterback was better than Dalton, you were like, okay, let's try to build around this guy. If your quarterback was worse than Dalton, you're like, okay, we gotta who's coming up next? Like, let's get some scouts out and see what we got. So to your point about the void of Derek Carr, I think there is something to be said about that. Because think about it, if I'm saying he's a top 15 quarterback, then that means he's roughly average.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you would want to be looking for somebody better, or if your quarterback is worse. So I guess my question is, as Davion says, what's good, y'all? On the way home, seeing Final Destination Bloodlines. Can't wait for football season. Yeah, Colleen really wants to see that. She's, for some reason, she hates horror movies, but for some reason, Final Destination is a weird.
It's not really a horror. It's just like you see people die in the goofiest ways possible, like their nut sacks explode or something. It's like, what?
But yeah, I guess as a quick tangent, who would you say right now would be that kind of Dalton, Derek Carr line?
Geno Smith.
I could agree with that.
It's either Geno Smith or Darnold. It's Geno Smith or Darnold. It's like kind of like the Geno Smith line where it's like you're not pissed if Geno's your quarterback, but then you kind of hope he's better and stuff. Like I mean, Dak can kind of get there too, where it's like, Dak, there's a lot of debate about Dak. Like Dak, it's just like, I think Dak's a top 10 quarterback when healthy and he's able to play. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. But I'm sure by saying this, someone's going to be like, Dak, are you kidding me? And they'll get all upset.
I think you can make an argument for Russ too.
Russ right now, yeah. And so I think Russ, though, is kind of a tier below Geno right now. Like, I think Geno's still better.
Yeah,
like
Geno can play all sides of the field.
Yeah, Russ can only play his.
He can distribute throughout the entirety of the field. Russ really only has that deep ball or sideline shot left. Yeah. It's a very interesting. We need to. I'm gonna jot this one down and we'll revisit this.
We should do a QB tier list. We should do a QB tier list.
Yeah, that'll be fun because I know you and I are gonna have differences of opinions there.
All right. We just have to put Herbert top 5. Everyone else is doing this offseason. Might as well.
All right. If there's any quarterback from the AFC West that's going top 5, it's Bo Nix. But did
you see? Okay, so someone did an AFC West rankings of quarterbacks. They had Mahomes 1, Herbert 2, Bo Nix 3. Do you know who they had 4?
I'm guessing it's not Geno Smith to make.
It's not Geno Smith. He was 5.
Wait, hold on. So it's. Well, Minshew went to the Chiefs.
Yeah, they put Minshew over Geno Smith. What? They put Minshew at 4. I'm like, the fuck is this?
That is a shout out to our friend RJ. That would be an RJ list if anything. He actually
and Geno. I don't even think Geno was 5. I think Heineke even ranked higher than Geno Smith. What?
Speaking of Heineke, I don't know why. I kind of want to find out if this is the real person. You know how like Facebook gives you like the add friend suggestions?
Yeah.
I'm getting somebody that claims to be Tyler Heineke, and I'm like, this can't be real. But then the other part of me is, why would somebody impersonate Tyler Heineke?
Yeah, exactly.
What real game do you have to get? Like, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that Trace McSorley guy. He has a song about him, but Taylor Heineke, like, his claim to fame is that his last name is Heineke, and that he likes to have zins when he goes to sleep at night. Like, he keeps a zin in his mouth every time he sleeps. Which I'm like, look, I'm someone that does the oral tobacco too, but I would never sleep with one in my mouth. Are you kidding me? That's fucking ridiculous. By the way, they should sponsor us. Shout out to Grinds. This is great caffeine. If you don't like coffee, get yourself some Grinds. like coffee in your fucking mouth. This is the greatest thing I've ever had.
When I was in the Army, people like the amount of dip users was insane. I could never get behind that. I was just like, there's no way. And then some people started using pouches, and I was like, that's mildly better, and I still wouldn't do it. I was like, there's no way. I used to smoke cigarettes, but like I'm not touching the pouches. That's just
I know. Zins, I just use it for like certain nicotine, because like nicotine, like there's some good aspects towards nicotine, and especially for like mental health. So I like using them every once in a while. But man, I've been on those grinds, man. So like, you guys are looking for something like caffeine, try those grinds out, man. They're great.
But somebody who's got to really put the grind in is Caleb Williams, because he did not have the greatest of rookie season debuts for somebody who back when he got drafted, the whole thing was he's walking into the best situation quarterbacks ever walked into. And we get some interesting stories recently about how when he was working on when he needed to do film study, there was nobody from the Bears organization that was in the room with him. Like, that's just insane to me. But that isn't even the most fascinating aspect of what's going on with Caleb right now, because we are finding out from some new book, which I haven't. I mean, great way to grab headlines to try to move some copies. I appreciate the. I admire the marketing. I admire the hustle. But there's a book out that's talking about the draft process. I mean, among other things, for Caleb, and how he was trying to figure out a way to avoid being drafted by Chase's second favorite team, the Chicago Bears, and how he was trying to figure out within the rules of the CBA whether he could avoid going to the Bears. So I have to imagine with him trying to do that, that's before he even gets into the building. Then he does get into the building, and Matt Eberflus cares more about his honeybees than he does apparently like breaking down, which also then makes it hilarious now in hindsight, the Bears Hard Knocks, because you're looking at like the one-on-one sessions we did, the one-on-one sessions with him and Eberflus, to the point that Eberflus goes and gets your guy, Nick Saban. Remember they had that whole scene?
Yeah, remember I was like, bro.
He's like trying to talk to him, coach him up about how to build up a quarterback's ability and confidence.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so you wanted me to believe you did all that, but you couldn't have anybody from the organization in the film study room with him?
We said this in the Hard Knocks review, because we talked about that scene. I said, bro, you're an NFL head coach. Why are you asking fucking Nick Saban for help? Like, what?
And my question then was, but Matt Eberflus is in like his third year of being a head coach. Why would you now be calling Saban? You should have, and especially when you had Justin Fields, you would have been calling him to help develop Justin Fields. But hey,
we also called it out that like obviously Caleb Williams, because we talked about it, how like we felt it was so awkward during those scenes when it was just him talking. He was like, yeah, yeah, doing his Carl Anthony Towns impression and shit. It's like man, dude, like it does not surprise me with Shane Waldron, because Waldron, I've just heard horror stories. Like, remember when Jackson Smith and Jigba's all like, do you want me to be like, is this live or can I just say whatever? And they told me it was live. And he's like, yeah, he cool. He just said, yeah, he cool. Like, that's what I told you. Yeah, this guy does not like sometimes there's bad OCs, man, where that don't really help the quarterback, or like honestly just design plays, but don't watch film, which you think, oh, wouldn't you want to watch film? Nope. Some people are just very arrogant in their style of coaching, but I mean, hopefully with Ben Johnson, it's different. Hopefully Caleb gets the help he needs. I don't know. Maybe Ben Johnson will overflow his mind. But yeah, that was so interesting how Caleb Williams was like trying to find a way to get to Minnesota.
Granted, I've definitely done my fair share of Caleb Williams shit talking, but that's primarily because he's in the same draft class as Bo Nix. Like, I don't really have anything personally against Caleb Williams. It's just more, I know that my guy is going to be stacked up against what he does, what Jaden does, what JJ McCarthy does, what Michael Penix Jr. does. So like, there's a little bit of, all right, you know what, fuck them. Like, I get that part of it, but like, while I'm reading this and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that, I do feel kind of bad for him. As Davion says, we had Shane Waldron in Seattle. That dude was fun.
Yeah, Waldron's like the first McVay tree guy that just didn't get it. Like, I guess, like, it's just one of those, like, Just didn't understand that. But remember, I even called that out too because I was like, bro, McVay moved this guy around way too much and stuff. So I know Sean McVay. He's like a homie of mine, you know. Like I just McVay, I promise I won't cheat on you again. I know I was on Camp KOC. I'm back. I'm back. You know, having my Campbell chicken noodle soup. I'm there for you, McVay. So just understand.
Don't forget whose house the Chargers play in.
Yeah, no, it's McVay's house. The house that McVay built.
But speaking of the Sean McVay tree, which leads to a larger conversation of the Shanahans and the Shanahan offense, a quarterback that has found a home in the Shanahan offense is Brock Purdy. And there's been so much conversation back and forth about whether Brock Purdy is a product of the system or whether he just executes very well, like whether he is actually a good quarterback. But the problem is, and, you know, I referenced the very first episode that we did football related on this channel. But during that episode, I was talking about how the Cardinals were making a massive overpay for Kyler Williams because of Kyler. Like the money was not justified based off of the results that Kyler had put up so far. That was my argument. And it's kind of been borne out as we've advanced through the years from when Kyler got that contract, because that was the first episode. But here, part of the reason why they had to pay Kyler was because that was just the market rate for quarterbacks. And similar to what we were just talking about of the Dalton scale, or if we want to now call it the Geno Smith scale, if your quarterback is at least above that, they're going to be able to demand X number of dollars. And we can have an argument about whether or not Brock Purdy is a product of the system or if he really just is a good quarterback. But regardless, the Niners said, we need to pay this man before he potentially goes anywhere else. Because, I mean, if you want to talk about whether he's a product of the system or not, if he was a product of the system, the Niners would say, we don't care. We don't have to pay Mr. Irrelevant because we can find another quarterback. Because if Brock Purdy was so terrible that he was drafted with the last pick of the NFL draft, we could basically just find an undrafted free agent off the street, some random kid who just didn't get drafted, and we could plug him into this offense, and we'll basically just run as is. Or we get a 6th-round pick, and it'll be fine. But no, instead of doing that, the Niners said, we are going to pay this man over 5 years, $265 million with $181 million guaranteed. And that's just insane to think about when you talk about the fact that prior to this, his total cash earnings for 3 years in San Fran was 5.35 million.
Yeah.
It's pretty damn insane to think that he's going to jump from what he was currently making to what he will be making. And honestly, I think he deserves it. Like he has led them by far as well as Jimmy Garoppolo did, if not better. And granted, he's had issues when some of those star playmakers aren't there. And we will see whether or not Brock Purdy is actually a good quarterback because the Deebo Samuels of the world aren't there anymore. And everybody's getting a little bit older. George Kittle is not going to be there for that much longer. I know they just extended him, but he's not going to be there for that much longer. We will see. But what are your thoughts on Brock Purdy, this contract, and whether or not he has earned it?
Oh, yeah. No, Purdy has earned it. Like, I think Purdy, you've seen great progression with him. I mean, Purdy, like you said, if they felt they could get someone as good as Purdy, they would have just let him go and would have just done the same thing. But clearly, they've seen the development. They've seen the growth. Purdy, I remember when I was breaking him down for the draft, I felt Purdy was one of the better pocket passers coming out of his draft class. I liked that he had a solid arm. I just felt that it was just like his height and his athleticism that was going to hold him back. And, you know, I didn't think he was going to be the last pick in the NFL draft. I felt for sure he'd go in the 5th or 6th round, but he ended up becoming Mr. Relevant, and he's improved. I mean, even those games missing the stars, I felt he played well. It wasn't like I can't name you a game off the top of my head where I'm like, yeah, they lost because Purdy sucked. Like, you know, like I can't think of one where I'm like, they lost that game because Purdy threw like 3 interceptions. And so, like, he hasn't had like
there are games where they lost because of the interceptions, where in the sense of because the interceptions came so late that they could not get back. But I think I generally would agree that I don't think there's really
Like with Herbert, I can name you like 2 games where it's like, yeah, we lost because Herbert sucked that game. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like with Purdy, I can't really like, and even with Burrow, like there's a lot of top end quarterbacks where I can tell you, like, yeah, they lost that game because so and so did this, and this and stuff. But like with Purdy, there's not too many games where you look at it and you're like, oh, they lost because like the Super Bowl, you can't put that on Purdy. Like the Super Bowl they lost, like Purdy played a great game. It's just freaking the defense that was the bread and butter for the Niners let up a lot of easy plays to the Chiefs. And Kyle Shanahan forgot they changed the overtime rules and, and didn't pay attention. Like that's on Shanahan. Like, I'm not gonna blame Brock Purdy for that one. Like, Purdy's good. Like he's a good quarterback. He's arguably a top 5 quarterback. It's like I think he's fine. Like I think it's a good contract. It's one that's like really just like a 3-year deal, to be honest. Like if he ends up sucking by his 3rd year, cool. You can trade him or cut him, and it doesn't hurt your cap space all that much. So I think it's a fair deal for Brock Purdy, to be honest. So happy for the guy. I mean, freaking living in California and you're the most important position in the NFL. Not just like, oh, you're a wide receiver. You're the quarterback. And you're getting paid less than half these bums you're playing with and stuff. Like it's just like.
And I remember last year they made a big deal about Joe Burrow getting like his offensive line katanas or some shit like that as the Christmas gift, and Brock Purdy working with Toyota, who was a sponsorship deal, to be able to give all of his O-line people trucks, and that like the value of the trucks that was given was more than or roughly speaking, like equivalent to the money that he was going to make for the season.
Yeah.
I was like, why are people getting mad at him? If anything, he found a creative way to be able to give a better gift to his O-line, who's keeping him. Like, why would you be mad at that?
Yeah, Purdy don't have like guys. He's still like he still lives in a small apartment. His girlfriend probably is the breadwinner, to be honest. Like his girlfriend probably, I think his girlfriend's like a nurse or something or something like that, or his wife.
Well,
like
yeah, in California, that's probably making
yeah, like I think she's something like that. She does something in healthcare. I think I'm not 100% sure, but like dude, like this dude was talking about at one point in time, if he didn't make the team, he was thinking about working at Applebee's. Like he was like, oh, I might have to start working at Applebee's again or something. Like he's a humble kid, so I'm actually very happy for him. Like happy that he got where he's at, and he plays good. Like it's not like we're never gonna make Brock Purdy the best quarterback in the league. We're never gonna have those debates. But if you want a quarterback for your team, and you have a team that can win, fuck yeah, give me Purdy. I take Purdy. Why not? This guy is shown that he can win, and he played well with that 49ers team last season. It was just that team was so beat up. Like it was just like all those years of going deep in the playoffs and everything. It takes a toll, especially in the NFL, injuries and everything of that nature. Like sometimes it's hard physically and it's hard mentally to try to keep being, the cream of the crop, to be the best of the best and stuff. And that's why that Chiefs documentary that's coming up, it's going to be very interesting to watch that, to see how they mentally stay focused, trying to complete, which they didn't complete, was a repeat.
You think about the first Niners Super Bowl loss, like of this era, the 2020 loss, and that George Kittle on the sideline thing, like I will be back. Not only does he get back, but they lose again. Like that, the level of just mental thought process that you have to go through to come back, to want to come back to football is crazy. And granted, you're getting paid very well, very handsomely, so like the money's going to help deal with some of those problems. But at the same time, it's like, damn, dude, like we went through all that. We played all these games. Now it's a longer season by another game. We played all these games and we still couldn't beat this team.
Yeah, especially if you look at even like after the Super Bowl, like the year before where Purdy was playing lights out and then he gets hurt. Yeah. And it's like, fuck, our team is good and we get our asses kicked by the Eagles just because Purdy gets injured. And honestly, if that Niners team would have faced the Chiefs that year, I think the Niners could have won because I felt they were a much better team. It was just once you lose the quarterback, that's how important Purdy is. So yeah, so I think he deserved the money that he got. He definitely earned it. He definitely is one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And anyone that's mad at this, I'm like, bro, like, why are you mad? If you guys think Purdy's that bad and you're mad at this, you should be happy that the Niners overpaid for a quarterback. Like you should be like, oh my god,
especially if you're in the NFC West. But
you should be like,
that's a great way to transition into the fact that on May 14th, and maybe a little couple days beforehand, the NFL likes to piecemeal leak out some of these things. We received the schedule, and now we know who all of our teams are going to be facing on any given week. Any given Sunday, Monday, Thursday, who they will be facing. Yeah. And we're not going to do a complete schedule breakdown like per team because we would be here for hours, and our post-draft show was 3.5 hours long. But I did want to put up the graphics for the primetime games. Yeah. And so we have the Thursday night games. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. I texted Colleen Christmas night.
Oh, poor you guys. You guys gotta watch this on Christmas night. Oh
wait, no, not poor you guys. Poor Colleen. She's gotta watch it.
Yeah, you're forcing your poor wife to watch this.
Hey, in sickness and in health, she made a promise. But
is it going to be on Netflix again?
I think so. Yeah, or Peacock, one of those.
Well, they say it's on Prime.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. This is on Prime. Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, Prime stole it from Netflix. Fucking this.
What if any games jump out to you here as being just interesting or kind of granted it's early, we don't really know exactly that much about how all these games are going to work, but like as kind of season, like we can kind of key in later as the playoffs are happening, we can go, oh yeah, this is where this team's season turned. Is there anything that kind of stands out to you for this TNF schedule?
So I know that they can flex some of these games because they did. Yeah. We got flexed at Thursday, remember, and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I wanted, like, honestly, man, this sucks. I miss when Thursday night football was missable and you could kind of just watch the game. All these matchups are actually not that bad, to be honest. So I love freaking San Francisco and LA on October 2nd. Like that could be like a good early season Thursday night game. The Giants and Eagles. That's like, how the frick did Fox not protect that game? That's a great game right there. Saquon and everything that the Giants have changed in their offseason. Like, yeah, the only stinker I see on here is like Patriots and Jets, like in November 13th, but that could get flexed out. So I'm all like, it sucks, but it could get flexed out for a better game if Amazon chooses. So
yeah, one of the ones that intrigues me is that Week 12 Bills and Texans, only because we saw a thrashing of the Bills last year, and I want to see like just what did Josh Allen learn from that, and what did McDermott learn from that, because that was a game where Josh Allen, the Bills could have spiraled from that loss because he didn't throw a touchdown.
Yeah,
he got a rushing touchdown if I remember right, but it was a doozy there for a while, and that was the Stephon Diggs revenge game. And that one's kind of interesting to me. I like Steelers Bengals.
Yeah,
7.
That's going to be good.
AFC North football, and honestly, looking at this for your team, I'm intrigued by that Week 8 one going up against KOC, and because for two reasons. One, from the perspective of the Chargers, Minnesota's defense can be a little stalwart when they need to be. So I want to see that one, and I want to see Jefferson and these receivers go up against the Chargers defense, particularly with JJ McCarthy now behind center. I think it's going to be a good early, because it's Week 8, so about halfway through the season, but it's a good early test for JJ McCarthy and for the Minnesota offense as a whole as to whether or not they really can stack up well. Because if you think about it, if everything broke right for both teams, that really is a Super Bowl matchup. So
that game also too, based off the schedules both those teams have, that could be like a really good record versus a really good record game too, between the Chargers and the Vikings.
Yeah. So those are the games from TNF that kind of intrigue both of us.
Shout out to Tampa and the Falcons. They didn't have a bad game at all last season.
That's right.
So I don't think that'll get flexed. Both those teams can suck, and they're like, nah, it's still going to be a good game. I don't expect either team. I think Tampa will still be good, and I think Falcons are going to take a step. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
this pisses me off. This pisses me off that Thursday night football is no longer shit. Like, come on. What happened to the game I loved and stuff? Look at you. You guys have the most Thursday night games. You got the Broncos versus the Raiders and the Broncos and the Chiefs.
Kenneth Walker and all that, but let's take a look at the Monday night games.
Oh,
there's some interesting ones here. I mean, you've already got that week six doubleheader.
yeah, that one's good.
The number 2 overall pick from 2024. But on top of that, the way that game ended last year was absolutely fantastic. So that's gonna be very interesting. You've also got Broncos Bengals, and that was a fantastic game last year that went to overtime. So that one's another one that's intriguing to me. But what are ones that stand out to you?
Yeah, man. Honestly, this is such a strong. Thank God, because Buck and Aikman are like one of the best commentating teams. So thank God they're getting good games. Chargers Raiders. That one's going to be good week 2. I really, really do like you said, that week 6 doubleheader. Both great. That's what I want Monday Night Football to. Like, I love that we're getting doubleheaders on Monday Night Football. Like, it just makes it so much more fun to watch.
Yeah.
I actually also like week 7's doubleheader. Tampa Bay and Detroit, 2 teams that kind of left a lot on the table, to be honest, and get to kind of prove themselves in a pivotal matchup later in the season.
Another rematch from last year.
Yeah, and then Texans and Seahawks, I also don't think is that bad either. Chiefs and Washington, especially the trajectory Jaden Daniels is on, like that could be like one where it's like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is playing against a guy that is similar to him. So, and Eagles and Chargers, just depending on the record.
I was going to ask you, how do you feel about that one?
I love it. I'm actually going to take one of my managers. He's a huge Eagles fan. By the way, fuck you, Brazil, taking away. I don't know what's going to happen. I got to call it the Chargers season ticket holder people, because I lose a home game. So how am I going to be compensated by this? Like, like you're not flying me out to Brazil. So
they'll give you a Rams home game.
No, they'll give me a shitty T-shirt like they did last year. But yeah, no, I'm excited for. My concern is that's like, because Monday Night Football can also get flexed. So these later Monday Night Football games, I don't know how many of them are like good. Like I refuse to believe on December 1st we're going to see New York Giants versus the New England Patriots. I refuse to believe that. Like
they'll be like Christmas is still 3 weeks away. You're going to deal with this. You're not getting.
That'll be the worst, the least watched Monday Night Football. Hey, shout out to the Panthers though, because they got a primetime game this year. Last year they had 0. They got one. They're back.
That's true. One of the interesting questions is going to be, by the time they get to week 16, and it's Niners and Colts, is it going to be Big Tony or is it going to be Daniel Jones?
Come on, bro. we all know it's going to be Will Levis, dude. He's going to get traded to the Colts. Guys, Will Levis is there. I don't know why you guys won't trade for him, but yeah, no, this is great. That's interesting though. The Week 18 TBD doubleheader. That's why you like, because we all know they love Week 18 Sunday Night Football. That's like the big game. What are we watching on this Week 18 doubleheader? Like,
you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna flex in some of the final divisional matchups.
I guess.
The ones, like, if there are any divisions that are still like, remember how last year we had?
Can you check
Lions?
When January? Oh no, January 3rd. So that would be like the Saturday games, right? Because if December 29th is a Monday, January 3rd is like those Saturday games they do, right?
Let's find out. Let me look at
because that's where
you are right. January 3rd is a Saturday.
Okay, that makes sense. Because I was all like, bro, there's no way NBC is like That's traditional NBC. They get the last game of the season. It's always the best game. So that's why, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Because like last year we got those AFC North games and it was just like no one cares. They were just playing these stupid games and no one cared. Like they were like, yeah, okay.
But that leads us to Chase got it right. He said, NBC gets the big ones, and that leads us to Sunday Night Football.
Dun, 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 dun.
And there's some good ones here. Some good ones here. I mean, for me personally, that Week 13, Denver versus Commanders, that one jumps out. You got Week 11, Lions and Eagles. That's gonna be fire.
Week 6, Lions and Chiefs.
Lions and Chiefs. There's a lot that primetime games, a lot of primetime games that are going to be really good, I think.
Broncos and Commanders, that's a good one too.
Yeah. And actually, when I think about it, the Broncos Commanders game, I still like from 2023. The Broncos lose off of a nonsense no call on a hold. They are hitting. It was a hold and hitting Russ while he's running for it. But because of that win, it affected the rankings to the point that down the road, the Commanders didn't really have to worry about, do we have to make the decision between Caleb and Jaden? Because that was what their record ended up being, just better than the Panthers, and the Panthers had given that pick to the Bears, so it was the Bears' decision. So it's interesting to see how little things shape up, but those little things start now. They start now.
We should just be able to flex that Kansas City New York Giants game. Ain't no one watching that fucking shit.
Wait, which one?
Week 3. Week 3?
You want to flex Week 3?
Yeah, these fucking dicks. That sucks. That's terrible,
man.
I can see Pat there, Mike, but I don't know. Does Jackson start playing, or I see Russell Wilson?
He says that now, ladies and gentlemen. But on Week 3, when Cam Scatterbo just goes off, he'll be singing a different tune.
And dude, the Falcons are in way too many primetime games this year. Like they're in a lot. Like they're in a lot of Thursday, Monday. They have 2 Sunday night games. Like
there's a Michael Fields joke in there somewhere.
Dude, the 2 teams that got blow up from primetime games this year are the Falcons and the Commanders. Because like if you throw up those other graphics real quick, you can see it's like, Jesus, like how many games are the Commander? Like, let's see, this is the ESPN. Yeah, the Commanders have 2 Monday night games, 2 Sunday night games. The Falcons so far have 2 Monday night games. And then the Falcons, I guess Washington has the first Thursday night. Yeah, so they got 5 primetime games this year. That's a lot.
There's that Week 15 Falcons primetime game, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, both those teams got 5. Like last year, it was like, do we put the Commanders on primetime? It's like now they're on primetime. And hey, Commanders on primetime, they were good games. And the Falcons, they were fun to watch on primetime. I mean, that matchup between Daniels and Penix, that was really cool last year. So good for them.
And it's interesting because if you took a time machine right now and went back to this time a year ago, if you and I had been having this conversation about who would be the better team, right? I think most people would have taken the Bears over Commanders, right? So that goes to show that right now, discussing who has the best offseason, it's a fascinating experiment. It's a fascinating thing to talk about because there's so many things that can change and there's so many things that are in the air. But as it stands right now, we are going to be discussing who really, to us, had the best offseason. Now, what I think is interesting is you and I both ended up having the same top 10 list. Now, I originally had the Titans in there as having one of the better offseasons simply because if you have the number 1 overall pick and you get the quarterback, I kind of have to rank it a little bit higher.
They have a quarterback. They're just doubling down. It's okay.
But I wanted
I'll be proven right on Will Levis eventually.
But there's a reason why it's not as zoomed in because we're gonna go through this. But the order is where we differ. And so I have you went Bears, Ravens, Bills, New England, Raiders, Broncos, Bengals,
Yeah.
Chargers, Cowboys, Panthers, and I had the Raiders higher, Ravens slightly lower, New England roughly the same, Broncos and Chargers roughly the same as you. I had the Bills lower than you, so I'm interested when we get to there because you have the Raiders a little bit lower than I did. And then over here we kind of I had the Bengals a little bit lower. So let's get into it. I don't have these. I'm not following any particular order that we're doing these in, but let's start over here with the Cowboys. So here we have all of the Cowboys changes. You have the head coach changing, Brian Schottenheimer coming in. Because Schottenheimer is now the head coach, he needs a new OC. He goes and this field felt a little weird to me, but I don't know that much about this individual, Clayton Adams. He's the former Arizona O-line coach. I don't know if that necessarily is the best recipe for having an offensive coordinator, but we'll see. And interestingly, they get rid of Mike Zimmer as the DC and bring in Matt Eberflus. Now, what you were saying earlier, some people just aren't good OCs, but there are some people who just aren't good head coaches.
Yeah,
they're really good coordinators, and Matt Eberflus kind of falls into that category. He definitely has proven himself as a DC, and so now he's potentially he's trying to work his way back to a head coach job, I would assume, and that's starting by being the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, a unit that had a lot of opportunity and didn't necessarily make the most of it. I think that's the easiest way to describe the Cowboys. But now underneath that, I've listed some of their big departures, some of their big additions. I've only listed Trey Lance because of just the hilarity of what that San Fran trade was. But they lose.
And that's my searching quarterback. You show respect to him, bro.
They lose Rico Dowdle. They lose DeMarcus Lawrence, which I thought was a big one.
Yeah.
Linval Joseph leaves. He has not signed with a team yet. That's why his new team is blank. But in order to try to fix these issues, they bring in two running backs, Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams from Carolina and Denver, respectively. These are both on one-year deals. Javonte got a little bit more money. He got $3 million versus Miles' $1.3. But you see that from they're really trying to help this offensive line. They're bringing in two guards to try to help shore up this offensive line. They re-sign defensive tackle, a huge deal, 4 years, $80 million.
Earned that.
And then we look at their actual draft, and you can see they went further with the offensive line, getting your guy from Alabama, Tyler Brooker. And they also then went and got a lot of defense to try to help shore up a unit that I don't know if, there were games where the defense was definitely not the problem. There were also games where the defense was the problem or were the problem. And you can make an argument that it really was a lost season with the injuries to Dak, the injuries to CeeDee Lamb, and so on and so forth. But if those injuries don't happen again, if lightning doesn't strike twice, you want to make sure that your defense can hold up their end of the bargain. So it makes sense that they're going and getting these guys. But what interested me was the two running backs that they drafted, Jaden Blue, Phil Maffa. Both of them, they have the different skill sets of Maffa being a little bit more of the north-south, Jaden Blue being a little bit more of the receiving back. I'm interested to see how that works out with Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, because with the incumbent running back gone, all snaps, whether it's a passing down or a rushing down, all snaps are up for grabs. So with those four running backs, whether or not Javonte still has any gas left in the tank, he was a great pass catching back for Denver. So we'll see if that, matches up against Jaden Blue well. Miles Sanders, more of a jack of all trades. So we'll see how he matches up against Phil Maffa. But you, if I remember the list, I think you had the Cowboys a little bit higher than I did. Oh, no, I had the Cowboys a little bit higher. So I liked this one mainly because of how they were trying to rebuild the defense and what they were trying to just kind of keep the focus on the running back, but for the first time in a long time, not use one of their first-round draft picks on a running back and going where the team need was.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the Cowboys offseason?
Well, we forgot to add George Pickens, who they just traded for.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get the trade.
Which helps out the Dak doesn't have receiver issues, which Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, that's a great 1-2 punch. But I like that they got trolled with the Schottenheimer hire. Like poor Brian Schottenheimer just got absolutely obliterated. I've never seen Cowboy fans commit sports suicide in my life, and because they're the most delusional fan base, and they gave up after this. I like it a lot because you win the football games between the trenches. They know like what the issue is, and Jerry Jones is just looking based off how his teams have succeeded. It's always having a strong ass offensive line and a strong ass running game, and he is ensuring that will happen, and Dak will also be able to be healthy and be able to play well with this team. I think what the Cowboys did was really good just based off the fact that they understand their weaknesses and they're improving on those weaknesses, but they didn't have to really they can't really break the bank. They have no money. But the people they picked up, I felt it was good for what they paid for. I mean, they didn't pay too much. The only guy that got a big contract was the D Osa, but he was good for them, and he was someone that you could not have let go. If he was on the free agent market, he probably could have gotten more money, to be honest. I'm just being real about that. So I like they were able to keep him. DeMarcus Lawrence, that was the only reason why I didn't have them ranked higher. If like they could have found a way to keep DeMarcus Lawrence, keep Tank, this guy who has been a captain and a leader of your defense, a guy too. When he got drafted, oh my God, people were so like this isn't DeMarcus Ware. What do you mean you're drafting this? This guy stinks. And he ended up being one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, a consistent threat for that Dallas defense. Became a really good, and now he's going to Seattle, and he has the home there. But if they could have kept him on like a team friendly deal or trying to find a way to keep him, I would have loved this even more. But I just like that they're focusing on the trenches and they're trying to keep Dak and strong and consistent for Dak and for what Jerry Jones believes is success as a running game. Like that's how he won those Super Bowls in the 90s. And the best season that we saw from the Cowboys were that one season with DeMarco Murray where he went close to 2K yards. And then also Zeke Elliott when he was on top. And it was because of that great all-time offensive line with Martin and Frederick, another guy that got trolled on for being picked like super duper high, and Tyron Smith. Now they keep shoring up this offensive line. So I adding depth because that was the thing when they got injured, it was just like, oh, they're screwed. But I like it. I honestly think that this was a good offseason for the Cowboys. I know Cowboys fans, it's not the most flashiest. Hopefully picking up Pickens for a bag of crumbs, that was good enough for you guys. So
yeah, and if anything, he'll be entertaining, trying to fight all the DBs.
I wonder if him and CD Lamb will fight. Like that's my thing. Because like CD's low key kind of like a scrapper. So like like him and Pickens, like they're going to be scrapping for touches.
But two wide receivers who complement each other very well and seem to be very humble with each other. Particularly one of them being perfectly fine with being the 1B in the offense is T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And as we turn to the Bengals, the biggest thing that needed to happen happened. And that's where you see those two there under re-signs. Not only were they able to re-sign Jamar Chase, they were able to re-sign T. Higgins in a time where a lot of people had pegged him as being the guy who was going to be moving during the offseason when it came to wide receiver talent. And he wasn't. Now, these are two huge deals. 4 years, $161 million. 4 years, $115 million. And, famously, the Bengals don't like spending money. You can see the rest of these big additions that they did aren't big at all because they don't really like spending money. But they did open the wallet for these two guys, and I'm sure that Joe Burrow is pretty dang grateful for it. But the other thing that was the biggest for me is getting Lou Anarumo out. Not that, there was a lot of things that was kind of, you could say, were being held against him in the sense of there was talent on the team, but it just was not translating properly on the field. But you could also make an argument that's the job of the DC, is to take that talent and make it translate on the field. But they had a few departures. They lose Khalil Herbert. They lose two defensive tackles, Jay Tufele and Sheldon Rankins. That's going to be kind of a big loss. But they do a little bit of an addition with adding Samaje Perine and adding a defensive tackle from Green Bay. And then you look at their draft, and it's just defense, line, defense. And yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, we should probably have some kind of competition and complimentary back for Chase Brown when he gets tired. So we're going to get Taj Brooks because Zach Moss is not it. But you were higher on the Bengals offseason than me, so I'll shut up and let you talk about how much you like the Bengals offseason and the moves that they make.
Yeah, simple. You re-signed the best receiver in the NFL, and you re-signed the best number 2 receiver in the NFL, keeping your quarterback happy. I saw both those guys alive, man. Like
sometimes it's just that easy.
Yeah, it's just that easy. Like just common sense. Like there was talks of T. Higgins going to any other team. They're like Patriots could open up the checkbook for him. The Chargers, there's talks about him going there and stuff. And just for the Bengals to keep both of them, that's a win in my book. Like everyone else they got, okay, cool. You know, maybe P. Ryan has some intel on the Chiefs playbook or something. Who knows? Like he was there for so long. So maybe he could be like, oh no, you see when they call audibles here, and maybe he's just like an intel guy. That's why they signed him and stuff. But also getting rid of Lou Aramuno, like, look, I felt like he was the scapegoat because I felt Zach Taylor should have been gone, to be honest. But really, to be honest, like you said, probably should have gotten most out of the talent and stuff. Like maybe you should have. The only reason why, like the Bengals honestly could have been a lot higher for me if they would have re-signed Trey Hendrickson, but both Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals obviously are clashing heads and the situation's very ugly between them, so we don't know what's going on. I think both sides are at fault. I'm not going to really blame the Cincinnati Bengals. People could say, oh, it's just the Bengals are so cheap here. No, the Bengals are being smart because, look, they just paid Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, 2 guys that are still on the right side of the age, 2 guys that have shown consistency of where they're at in their positions. Jamar Chase being the best receiver in the NFL, T. Higgins being the best number 2 receiver. Trey Hendrickson, he hasn't shown consistency of being a top edge pass rusher every single fucking year. Some years he's great, and you saw this in New Orleans. Some years he was great, and then other years he would just be just fine. And Trey Hendrickson, unfortunately, is on the wrong side of 30. And especially when you're white and you're on the wrong side of 30, your athleticism is going to disappear faster. That's just how it is. Us white people are at a disadvantage for this. Like, it just is what it is. The Bengals probably wanted to sign for a lesser deal and cheaper. Trey Hendrickson thinks that he should get the big bucks. And it's like, dude, Trey Hendrickson, you think every time, though, every season, you're going to get 14 to 17 sacks when we sign you to this big contract? No. Like it's not gonna justify giving him that big contract. And the Bengals, the only flub that they're having is that they're overvaluing his trade market because they really think a team is going to give up a second or first round pick for this guy, and teams are not that stupid. But then later on, they're comparing him to Judon, who got traded for a third round pick last year. So they're of course going to try to say, hey, he's worth a second round pick. So
yeah, if they can figure out a way to make that relationship better and pair him with Shamar Stewart, I think they have such a much better time.
Yeah.
In those games, like their ability to get after the Lamar Jacksons of the world is going to be so much better. Like it just is, and that's their competition, at least for this year, because like that the Steelers will probably stumble their way to like an 8-9 season somehow, some way.
Oh.
You have to make sure that you're not one of those 8s, right? But do the Steelers really strike people as a threat this season? No, not really. At least right now. Like maybe if they get Rodgers, things change a little bit. But like going into the season with either Mason Rudolph as the starter or even Will Howard, it just doesn't strike that much fear. And they already know that the Browns are the Browns. Like they're like first we got to figure out the Browns need to figure out which quarterback they're going to be starting with before we need to think about whether or not we're going to be struggling against to beat the Browns. And they're probably not going to be struggling to beat the Browns. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But, like, the Ravens are the ones that you're chasing after. And having 2 good defensive ends, that's a great way to try to contain Lamar Jackson and force it to be a Derrick Henry run up, because you know that the Ravens – aren't that great of a passing offense. Like they definitely got better because of Derrick Henry, but they're not that good of a passing offense just because of the lack of talent. Yeah. And we didn't see the Ravens really address that either in the offseason or in the draft. So it's like if we can contain Lamar and contain Derrick, and you can do that with defensive ends, we can go places. So it'll be interesting to see that. Now, a team that you and I both had in the top 10, but much lower on the totem pole, was the Carolina Panthers. And the Panthers, they have a few departures here and there, nothing too crazy. They have some additions, nothing too crazy, but it's really their draft. It's their draft that's interesting. They have the addition of Tet McMillan. They bring in Nick Skirton. They bring in Prince Umamielen, butchering that, but they also bring in Trevor Etienne, and that one was interesting to me just because it's obvious what's going on with Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah.
He's not going to be playing this season, and that's that really sucks both for him and for the team. But you're continuing to build around Bryce Young, and the argument there is you build around the quarterback by having good defense. That's one of the best ways to help a young quarterback. We see that's what's happening, for example, in Denver. When Herbert stepped into the Chargers, great defense. So building that defense up and getting the ball back on shorter yardage for Bryce Young is a huge thing. But what were the things that stood out to you for the Panthers offseason?
Yeah, I love the signing of Trayvon Morag. I thought he was a really good safety for the Raiders. And he will definitely help out with a lot of the issues that they've had at that back end. They've been trying to figure out who to put back there, and they've gone with veterans. And now to get a good young player that's still developing, I really like that pickup because I really do think him being there will help out a lot of issues, especially in the running game. He's a very good tackling safety, so really love that. And then Wharton from the Chiefs, he was kind of he was a rotation piece for that Chiefs defensive line. Not really the best run stopper, but I think he pairs up well with Derek Brown and what Derek Brown brings to the table as a defensive tackle, who is kind of a do-it-all defensive tackle, someone that can also rush the passer and get to the quarterback. I think that's where Wharton's going to thrive. So I really like those pickups of getting young guys that are on a timeline that can develop, but also good. I think Dottle, that was a steal. When I saw that Dottle only signed for a 1-year deal, I was like, bro, he had a really good year for the Cowboys and was one of their best offensive pieces. You're telling me he couldn't sneak a nice 3 or 2-year deal? No, just a nice 1-year deal. Compliments Chuba Hubbard well. So I just like what the Panthers did, not only just getting good pieces for them, but like you said, the draft, just getting guys that I feel can make an impact for that roster that just needs talent, and especially on that defensive side of the ball. Offensively, I think they're almost there. It's they just got to fix some stuff on the offensive line. But other than that, I think the Panthers are showing great improvement. And obviously, they finally got a primetime game. Maybe they get flexed in some primetime games. My dog Bryce Young, he lights up the league this year. But hey, man, I don't know who to decide who I love more, Bryce Young or Will Levis sometimes. So if Bryce Young doesn't work out, pray for Will Levis. Just saying. I'm just saying. Imagine Will Levis. Dude, come on.
Will Levis to Tet McMillan. Who wouldn't sign up for that?
Oh, dude, Will Levis to Xavier Legette? Come on, dude. That's a match made. They could have mayonnaise raccoon commercials, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it would be great.
Hitting all the local stations.
Yeah, exactly. No, but in all seriousness, the Panthers, it's just because they still have a lot of cap. So I like that they use their cap, but it's could you guys have not tried harder to get a bigger name? I thought for sure Milton Williams would have been a slam dunk. We're gonna overpay him, and that's fine to overpay a player like Milton Williams. He's a great player, but this is where the Panthers. The fact you have a lot of money, you should be doing this so that way you can get better and quicker.
There's a finite timeline with those rookie contracts.
Yeah, soon with Bryce Young, you might have to pay him if he plays it good again next year, and then you're debating, do we keep Bryce? Do we not? And if the receivers like him, and it's yeah. So to me, I was just kind of shocked they weren't a little bit more aggressive and not adding a veteran wide receiver, just that. I like their nice little young receiver core that they have, adding Tet and then adding all these other other players and stuff, the young players, the Cokers of the world and stuff. But a Lockett would have been nice here, or a Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs would have been really perfect here, type of wide receiver that you would want. So That's my only complaint with the Panthers. If they would have added a nice veteran wide receiver, where it's just like we added a vet, even if he's not the best, just getting that vet to kind of calm the young kids down.
They also would have been a great. I know he ended up coming to Denver, but Evan Engram,
yeah,
would have been a solid piece because like right now these are the tight ends on the roster. Granted,
Tommy Tremble, baby,
but Tommy Tremble,
yeah.
Jatavion Sanders, James Mitchell, Dominique Daphne, and now Mitchell Evans. So it's like there's really not that much there. So
yeah,
we'll see.
All guys that you're hoping because they're like, especially Sanders and Tremble, like you're just hoping that they will wake up one day and become good. Like like, oh, they're really athletic and they're really good and stuff. Like hopefully, but you got to get someone. But yeah, Evan Engram would have been a perfect pickup here. But yeah, I was just more shocked just that they weren't more aggressive. I like their pickups, but I just wish they were more aggressive with their pickups, especially when you're a team in what I think is a wide open division. It's like the NFC South is not concrete, the Buccaneers division. You could steal this division because you will be playing the worst teams every single week. You are playing against other last place teams every single week. Like you are going to be able to have a chance. It's not like this division is locked up. So that's where I was just like, I wish they would have done more with their cap space. Like, like the Jaguars every year, they would just sign a bunch of idiots. And it was just like, and then it would work out for them because it was just like, oh, yeah, we paid all these players and stuff. And then they would crash out, but at least it worked for them.
But another team that's building around a quarterback on a rookie contract is New England. And you and I both had New England in the same spot, actually. We both had them at 1, 2, 3, 4. We both had them fourth on the list of teams that had the best off seasons. And honestly, when I originally, because I did my rankings and then I started doing all of this, I had New England lower. I did, and then I moved them up while I was doing this because I was seeing things. I was like, I forgot they did that. I forgot they did that. Oh, but let's look at exactly what they did. This is a huge list. Comparison to the Panthers.
Yeah, look at the Panthers. All this cap space, nothing. New England, they did it right with the cap space.
Look at this. So first and foremost, you start at the top, and Jared Mayo. We could say that you're the scapegoat. It is what it is. But they bring in Mike Vrabel, and they bring in Josh McDaniels to be the offensive coordinator. And maybe Josh McDaniels, it's tough for him to do it without Tom Brady. Adam Gase couldn't really get the job done without Peyton Manning. But Josh, we'll see what happens there. But when it comes to what they're doing with the rest of the team and whether or not they're going to have the pieces, you can look at this and just like look at the money on the deals just for the additions. Harold Landry, 3 years, 43.5. Carlton Davis, 3 years, $54 million. Morgan Moses, coming from the Jets, 3 years, $24. Robert Spillane, 3 years, $33. Milton Williams, 4 years, $104. Honestly, no lie, I'm doing this list, and I get to this part, the additions, and I'm typing in, and I'm like, wait a minute. 3 for 54, 3 for 24. I'm like, this lines up perfectly with Drake May's contract. I'm like,
exactly.
Okay, New England's got to move up higher.
Yeah.
These 3 year deals, you will know whether or not you need to pay people again right before the Drake May contract, and you will be able to massage the cap because the salary cap will have gone up a bit, and you'll know who to keep and where you will be drafting people to potentially replace and or learn from some of these players. This is a really solid just addition. And then you have the draft, and you look at what they build here. Because if you notice, almost all of those things are offensive line or defense. But the draft is where it turns to offense, like much more pure offense. Because you have Will Campbell, sure, offensive line. Dude's coming out there in the draft saying he'll kill people for Drake May.
He's going to risk his life. He's going to die.
That, like, obviously Mike Vrabel's like, that's what I wanted to hear. And then you add Travion Henderson, you add Kyle Williams, you add 2 people that are going to be able to compete on day one. Kyle Williams, very, like, not a big name in that sense from the draft process, but he's going to be able to compete day one.
Mm-hmm.
When you've added Stephon Diggs and Mac Hollins, they're there to help teach him. Because I think Vrabel was looking at what happened last year with Jalen Polk and Javon Baker and was like, this is not they're not getting the job done. And sure, they've got Pop Douglas, but he said, we're going to get somebody in the draft. We're going to pair them up. You now have these pieces that you can really push things forward in a division that, with the exception, I mean, maybe the Jets are a little frisky, but is very cutthroat between the Dolphins, the Bills, and now you're like, how do we compete against these teams? And maybe, you know, Miami's on the back half of those years where they're good. You know, Tyreek Hill's getting older, Tua, who really knows, and Jalen Waddle also is there, but he's starting to pick up those injuries as well. There's only so much that Devin Achane can do by himself. So, yeah, you could say I could supplant Miami as being the real threat to Buffalo, and if Buffalo ever missteps, we're right there. But what were the things that you liked about New England's offseason?
I just loved how aggressive they were. They got a guy like Milton Williams, like overpaid for him, but it's a good overpay because he's a very talented defensive tackle, was very important to that Eagles D line. So I really like that right there. Getting a guy like Harold Landry, who, you know, has up and down seasons, but Vrabel knows him very well from his time in Tennessee. So obviously he wants him on that team. Carlton Davis, he signed a 1-year prove-it deal with the Lions last year, and he proved that he is a very still good corner in the NFL. So you have someone that can pair up with Christian Gonzalez, which is like very, very nice to have. You already got your top-end corner that is also similar timeline to like with Drake May. Like he's definitely one of the cornerstones of that franchise moving forward. And it's like, okay, we got to make sure that like we can keep him happy, because having a guy like this, it's hard to find a player on that. Robert Spillane, though, what a fucking if you guys watch a lot of Raiders games, this guy was a maniac. Was all over the fucking field. He's good. He's good. He's a Vrabel type player. This guy is like a Patriot. Like when you think of all those Patriot linebackers like Teddy Bruschi and shit back in the day, this would piss you off. He's going to piss you off. Like all you people right now, you're going to be like, oh my God, this Robert Spillane, he's going to, I think, honestly, he could be a guy. I think he's going to have a really, really good season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a Pro Bowler this year. And if the Patriots are good, he might get all pro considerations. Like I'll make that claim because I liked him a lot on the Raiders. And that was one of the guys besides Moreg. I was like, why didn't the Raiders keep Spillane? Like, this is a guy you should have kept. Like, he's a very, very good football player. Picking up Diggs, I know he's coming off an injury, but that's a guy you want for someone with Drake May's skill set. He is the perfect receiver for Drake May to learn to like throw a football to. Like, Stephon Diggs, like, yes, his career has kind of gone down a little bit, but he's still a good receiver, and he's someone that I feel like can help Drake May feel confident and gain confidence of like, oh yeah, I can throw it to someone that's covered. Like, because I know this guy will come down with the ball if needed, and that's what Diggs is going to bring to the table. And their draft, we talked about it. They had one of the better drafts. Most Mike Vrabel-ass draft I've ever seen. But yeah, I really like what the Patriots did because they had a shit ton of cap space. They signed players that can fill holes for them that they desperately need, especially on that defensive side of the ball. But they also got offensive line help and weapons for Drake May to use. Mac Hollins is a good weapon. I love their addition of Diggs. And then you look at what they added in the draft. It's just good stuff, you know. Like I feel Vrabel, he's building something there. And, you know, next year they'll once again go heavy into offseason because they'll still have a shit ton of cap space. So, yeah, no, I love their offseason. It's just a little bit lower because I get that it's hard to, you know, get one of the top end running backs and want to pay them money. And yes, maybe Travion Henderson just has a great rookie season. Would have liked if they went after a good running back. That would have been icing on the cake. Maybe they would have moved up to number 2 for me. You know, like if they just added like a running back where it's like that's not Ramondre Stevenson. You know, like just someone that's more consistent with the football. Like that's it. Like if just add like a nice veteran running back, that would have been nice.
I mean, it was mad funny that they benched last year. They benched Ramondre Stevenson for fumbling issues to have Antonio Gibson be the starter, who has fumbling issues.
Yeah, made no sense. So I just wish they went after a running back, like not like a rookie. Like I think Henderson's gonna be great, obviously, but like just someone where it's like, hey,
you know who would make sense for them? A guy that went to a team we already covered, but Miles Sanders.
Yeah, like a Miles Sanders, that would have been nice. Or Javonte Williams also would have been nice. Like someone like that. Just a good veteran running back. Like, hey, they're not going to break 1,000 yards, but they can help. They can help you out in a certain situation. They're more reliable. So
Yeah. Especially someone like Javonte. Actually, either one of them. They're both great pass catching backs, and that's something that Travion Henderson is supposed to be good at. But teaching him the differences between being a pass catching back in college versus the NFL, two very different games. That
yeah, he's not going to get those gimmicky plays that they would run in college. Like like
you raise a really good point about that. But let's turn to the team that lost Javonte Williams, and that is my Broncos, where I think you had them at. So I had the Broncos at 5th, and you had the Broncos at 6th. So let's take a look at the Denver Broncos, and there were a few departures, but nobody relatively big. Like Cody Barton leaving, yeah, that was kind of big, but at the same time, Cody Barton, like if you look at what they replaced him with, I don't think anybody's really going to be that upset with it. But the additions, the two at the top are the big ones. And I forgot to put Evan Ingram on here actually myself. So the three additions of Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, and Evan Ingram, absolutely phenomenal. And I know that Dre Greenlaw just tore his damn quad, but at the same time, Sean Payton's saying he's going to be ready by the time the season comes. And he's ahead of schedule and all that. So it's like, all right, cool. Just please keep him safe. But adding Talanoa Hufanga, awesome for that secondary, pairs up well with Brandon Jones. But adding Evan Ingram from the free agency standpoint was the biggest and best thing that Denver could have done. Yeah. Now, I personally wanted them to get like Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren. But I knew after they signed Evan Ingram, they weren't going to draft that guy, either of those guys, because they really don't need him. What they needed was a running back, and that's what they would get in the draft. However, looking at Evan Ingram, the reasons why that Denver struggled from the offense standpoint, particularly in the beginning of the season, was because they did not have a run game and they did not have an underneath target.
Yeah.
And Peyton had to kind of shift what he wanted to do because he didn't have that person that could just be in space, and he had to start relying on these behind the line of scrimmage passes, which I personally hate with a passion, and relying on throwing the ball to the running back. Javonte Williams had a very high number of targets and receptions for Denver. That's going to change because they're now all going to go to Evan Ingram because they're not going to have a blocking tight end as tight end one. And that's really the most important thing because you don't have to force targets to Cortland Sutton anymore. Like you can use Sutton way better because he's going to be – they're not going to know, hey, majority of these passes, if they're not behind the line of scrimmage or to the running back, are going to go to Cortland Sutton. Now it's, okay, we need to make sure we're keeping an eye on Evan Ingram. But part of that is, do you have an effective run game? And that's where Denver says, okay, we're going to get RJ Harvey in the second round. Now, did they make a mistake? Should they have gotten Omarion Hampton at 20? I'm sure Chase would say yes because he's
it's okay. You guys didn't need him. We needed him.
Is on the Chargers, and we're going to get some Chargers. But maybe that wasn't the wisest use of that first round draft pick. But one of the best ways you could help a rookie quarterback is with a good defense. And adding Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, and now Jahdae Barron to this already stacked and loaded defense is absolutely insane. Mm-hmm. And you have somebody in Jahdae Barron who can play any position that a cornerback needs to play. He can line up in the nickel. He can line up in the slot. It's going to be awesome to be able to move him around. Vance Joseph probably was just tickled that they were able to get Jahdae Barron at pick number 20. But one of the powerful things of Denver's defense was the ability to generate sacks and QB hits and pressures. And that came because of having such a good secondary. Now you're adding Hufanga and you're adding Jahdae Barron. The JFMs of the world, the Zach Allens of the world, the Benitos and the Jonathan Coopers, they're just let loose. And Denver likes to rush 4, so they're able to do what they're able to do. And just quick shout out to 2 Broncos players. One, Alex Singleton, who had a great interview on the DNVR podcast and talking about his road to recovery and the great work that he is doing with Special Olympics.
Shout
And
out.
also, Zach Allen had a great podcast appearance. I forget the name of the podcast right now, but just talking about what that Denver defense brought to the table and how they play for each other. And I honestly had forgotten that his entire career, Zach Allen, he has been with Vance Joseph, because Vance Joseph was the DC in Arizona. When he was in Arizona, Vance comes over back to Denver to be the DC and says, yeah, make sure we get him. And they brought him over, and he's done great work for Denver. So I'm looking forward to the season, but I know that you, in particular, loved the Savion Jones and the Q Robinson pickups. So what did you like about Denver's offseason?
Yeah, I like those pickups just because they're more depth for your guys' already deadly pass rush. Two guys that like you guys can let loose, and like I don't see them getting a lot of snaps, but I think the snaps that they will be playing, they will definitely make a difference on your defense. They'll definitely get after the quarterback. I can see both those dudes having 4 sacks on limited snaps, which is kind of what you want for situational pass rushers. But yeah, like getting Evan Ingram, like that's like perfect for Bo Nix. That's perfect for like what Sean Payton loves to run on offense. Like when did Sean Payton feast the most is when he had Jimmy Graham as his tight end and he was able to get Jimmy Graham. And Evan Ingram is kind of like tight end's kind of like that new position now where it's like age is only a number for tight ends, to be honest. Like freaking Zach Ertz is still balling out in this league and stuff, and people were writing him off, and he came back for one more year at the Commanders. And I feel Evan Ingram, there's a lot. Go back and watch some Jaguars games. There is a lot of games where Evan Ingram just took over. Like go back and watch. I want to, even though it's in a loss, his first game back against the Bears in London. That game, he had like 11 catches. Like, and he did not get tired. He did not get tired after getting beaten up. And he's super athletic, and he's someone that I feel plays well with Bo Nix. Like he knows how to block downfield. I think that just helps Bo Nix get better. Like that's just like a pickup that's like, hey, we're gonna get you a weapon that will make you better and will make it where you can feel comfortable throwing to the middle of the field. Like that's just a perfect pickup. But yeah, getting Hollow Fonga and Greenlaw, like it's like, man, like that defense is already good, and then you get these two studs. It's like Greenlaw's a beast. Like I think Greenlaw, like he's like it just sucks that he played with Fred Warner, one of the greatest linebackers you'll ever see. Like oh, I'm sorry, you were playing next to Fred fucking Warner. But man, I'm just being honest. If you watched that playoff run before he got injured in the Super Bowl, Greenlaw was literally one of the best linebackers on that field. Like he was horrific. And him getting injured in the Super Bowl was literally the worst thing to happen to the Niners because he is so great. Like, as much as I love Alex Singleton, not the best pass coverage linebacker. Love him. Good guy. Not a good pass coverage linebacker. Greenlaw, one of the top pass coverage linebackers you could ask for in the NFL.
Going back to one of the things that started the show, the whole thing of Brock Purdy, the games being on Brock Purdy. I don't know. Maybe if Dre Greenlaw doesn't injure himself.
Yeah. Celebrating. The most random. And you could tell, like, they were heartbroken by that. If you ever watch that mic up, once they hear Greenlaw, like, you could just see the face of Fred Warner. It goes from, like, this great, happy glow to this gloomy pale. Like, he turns pale hearing that Greenlaw got hurt. He's like, Dre got hurt? And it's like, what the? And it's like all the life left his face. So, great pickup. And Halafonga, it's like, look, safeties is like one of the hardest positions to kind of fill the void or like try to find like, great quality talent. He's a great quality talent. He's super good, great in coverage, can play to run. He is just going to help stir up that defense on the back end, which, some of the backbreaking plays for the Broncos were sometimes like Surtain was doing his job, and then the other side of the field, they couldn't get it done, or the safety was playing too low, like Halafonga is not going to make those mistakes. Like he's going to be good. So yeah, I loved these pickups. It's just like the only thing I wish the Broncos could have done to boost them up for me, add more receivers and add a more running backs. That's it. Yeah. Like other than that, it's like you can't really complain. Sean Payton knows what he wants out of his players. But just adding another reliable receiver, like this could have been a good Brandon Cooks team. Like Brandon Cooks would have been nice to have on this team, where it's just like, he's still fast, he can still burn people, but he kind of is a reliable hand if needed. And then a running back that I know Javonte Williams, it was kind of like more probably like a financial type of thing. You guys didn't keep him. Like he wasn't going to sign just a 1-year deal with you guys because he's going to be like, no, I played with you guys for so many years. You guys got to give me a 3-year deal. And it's like, we're not giving you 3 years, buddy. Take your 1 year. And he's like, fine, I'll go to off free agency. So adding a running back, but this running back class offseason wise wasn't as good as last year's with like Jacobs and Barkley and Derrick Henry. So can't really complain too much, but those are things that are where I've been like, oh, okay, like the Broncos killed it. But other than that, I just feel like when you get guys like Ingram, Greenlaw, and Halafonga, you can't complain. Like Greenlaw, I'm telling people, Greenlaw's a beast, man. Like people, like I said, I'm sorry that he played with Fred Warner. Like I get it, Fred Warner's amazing. I'm not trying to say like it's like that's the only reason why people don't give Greenlaw his flowers is because you're just watching Fred Warner be a beast, and you're like, oh, Fred Warner's the greatest, and it's like, no, Trent Greenlaw is also pretty damn fucking good.
Yeah, because part of the reason why Fred Warner can rush the passer and also can help make those tackles is if you have the pass coverage linebacker shutting down the rest of that middle section of the field. But
think about how good Dre Greenlaw is that the Niners had Devondre Campbell, who's also a really good linebacker. Greenlaw was healthy, and they said we're going to start Greenlaw, and made Devondre Campbell quit on the team because he was pissed that he couldn't play. Like Greenlaw's a good player. Like Devondre Campbell's no bum. Like to get Devondre Campbell to get benched, who will start on any other of the 31 teams in the NFL, that shows you something.
Yeah. And let's turn to the competition in the AFC West. There's a reason we're going through a couple AFC West teams in a row here. Every single one of them had good off seasons. But let's turn to the Chargers. And Chase, you take this one. You let us know why the Chargers had a good off season, sir.
Oh man, dude, it's all the departures makes me sad. No more Easton Stick, man. My guy, Simi Fehoko. That's a guy that he was a great locker room guy. Kind of bummed. Puna Ford was also a guy that I was kind of bummed that we couldn't keep and stuff. So we did keep. We kept our other D tackle, I think. The other one, Tart. I
didn't have everybody's additions, obviously. Well, I forgot the Evan Ingram one, but like I kept like some of the bigger names.
Yeah, you didn't put Benjamin St. Just in there, man. Come on, we got Benjamin St. Just. No, I actually really like that the Chargers they do have cap space, but they are smart with the money that they decide to put towards the cap space, and really just kind of went with that. People want to play with Jim Harbaugh and convinced them to sign these cheaper deals. Like this is when you know the Chargers are at a different level. Because before it's like, okay, we will pay you a shit ton of money to come to us because we need talent, and no NFL player in the past was going to say no to living in San Diego and now living in Los Angeles. It's like, let's be real. 9 out of the 10 people in the league, most of their retirement homes are here in LA. Like half of them have houses in Los Angeles. Like if it's not Los Angeles, it's Nashville. Like they have their home in these areas for a reason because of the location and everything. And I just like that the Chargers, like, they didn't break the bank to get to fill out certain positions. We lost a pass catching tight end. Let's see if Tyler Conklin has some legs. We'll sign him to a 1-year kind of deal. Najee Harris. I figured the Chargers were going to try to go after this guy. I was afraid that we were going to sign Najee Harris to like a 3-year deal, because he is one of the bigger name running backs in free agency. He's been consistent. People can complain about Najee Harris, but when you look at his stats, it's like, oh, he's consistent, gets 1,000 yards, can't complain about it. But getting him for a 1-year deal, that was great. Mekhi Becton out of nowhere. Like, I didn't even think he was on the Chargers' radar. And especially with the season he had, he could have commanded for a lot more money. But Jim Harbaugh, with his wizardry and the way that he convinced him, got Mekhi Becton there. Bringing back Mike Williams, who is like Herbert's favorite player of all time. Like, Justin Herbert loves Mike Williams. Like there's like a video where they're like asking about the Madden ratings, and they asked Herbert, like, what do you think Mike Williams' rating is? He goes, oh, easy, 99. And then later on, they're like, no, he's actually like an 82. And Herbert looked visibly sad about this. Like, he was so sad that Mike Williams was at a 99. But getting Mike Williams back, I like a lot because, like, it's just a guy that Herbert loves throwing to. This is his guy. Like, if you watch any Charger game late, you would see like he's not looking at Keenan Allen. He's throwing to Mike Williams. So
Yeah.
I like that pickup. But just the draft in general, getting such a Jim Harbaugh player, a guy that I can see just being a great Pro Bowler for many years to come in Amari Hampton. Amazing. Absolutely great. Getting guys to help fill voids on Minter's defense. We also re-signed Elijah Molden, who was a guy that we traded for with Tennessee last year. And he ended up being a really good safety for us. And yeah, no, I just like what the Chargers did. They didn't break the bank. They didn't bring in too many people, but they brought in pieces that I feel like could actually do well for us. Dante Jackson is a great veteran corner to have. He still has the speed that makes him really deadly as a corner because he can stop those burner routes and stuff. And he played really well for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. So I really do feel that they did a great job with this team.
Yeah, and what I really liked about it was a lot of those draft choices. Like last year you get Joe Alt, you start building those trenches, and you show that even with running backs who maybe past their prime, may have injury concerns, and J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, you can move the ball running. And now the question is, okay, well, if we could do that with somebody who has had injuries, a lot of tread on the tire, what can we do with somebody who is fresh to legs? And naturally, there's a reason why any one of these running backs that was in the draft was tied to the Chargers, was because it was kind of seems just a natural fit. That's where the Chargers are going to go. And, maybe Denver should have taken Omari and Hampton, but as fate would have it, one of the better running backs does fall to the Chargers at 21 or 22? 22, and they grab Omari and Hampton, and that's just really great to me. Now, on top of that, you add in the Trey Harrises and the Keandre Lambert Smiths of the world, in the sense that we saw in the game with Houston, that playoff game, that if it wasn't Ladd McConkey, there really wasn't another option for Herbert to throw to. And now we don't know
he threw to this tight end. I don't even remember his fucking name. I was like, who is this guy? He threw to.
We don't know whether Trey Harris or Keandre Lambert Smith are going to be superstar players. But if they're even just capable players, Herbert has the ability to move the ball around enough that you are at least giving up some of the pressure, letting up some of the pressure on Ladd McConkey. And that's really the key piece of what they needed, of what the Chargers needed from the passing game. And you add in those little things here and there, you add in more to the defense. And overall, it's just you see a team that is building well through the draft, to your point, not spending more than you need on key pieces to be able to compete with, let's face it, you and I are both in races against the Chiefs. And the only way that we have to either, basically it has to be a competition with the Chiefs if you're in the AFC West.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because you got to either go punch for punch with the Chiefs. Every win that they get, you get a win. Otherwise, that you're running the risk of not even getting a wild card spot. Like, that's really the thing, because we know there's going to be some devil magic or some nonsense that happens that allows the Chiefs to win the AFC West. Okay, fine. So if that's off the table, you are now trying to go, okay, well, I couldn't, luck wasn't on my side. Like, case in point, Denver getting the blocked field goal, or the things that happened with the Chargers against the Chiefs. Okay, can I at least get the wild card spot? If I was able to compete with the Chiefs, I should have a good enough record to be able to get one of the wild card spots. And that's really what the story is. So having teams that can do those things, and it's interesting to me because you see Denver and the Chargers approaching the same problem from two different angles, right? Because you have a situation where the Chargers are building through the idea of the run game. We are going to be a ball control offense that is going to pound the rock, and we're going to control the clock. When we need to throw, we will. Denver is going, okay, we are going to be a little bit more pass happy, and we're going to be using our running backs more out of the backfield as pass catchers. That's not saying Omari and Hampton's a bad pass catcher in any way, shape, or form. It's just saying, looking at what Sean Payton likes to do, he's going to go a little bit more pass catch happy with his running backs. He wants the running backs to be able to kill clock in those really late game situations, but he's not looking to be as aggressive running in, say, the first quarter or the second quarter. He's looking to go, okay, we want to be able to be aggressive running the ball in the fourth quarter. So it's really fascinating to me, particularly because this is what I like about football is how do you approach, what are the different ways to approach the same problem? And you and I both have the same problem. So seeing how our teams are doing that is really fascinating. But
yeah, the only thing with the Chargers, I wish they would have gotten one more edge guy and stuff like retaining Khalil Mack is great. Bud Dupree played well for us. We lost Bosa though. So you lost like a really good premier edge guy, and it was a money issue why we couldn't keep Bosa. Tuli Tuapatola showed some flashes. Just one more edge guy would have been like nice and more like I know we signed like Deshaun Hand and a couple other another defensive tackle that didn't really do much for their previous team as well. It's just like if you would have just found a way to get that no stuffing what defensive tackle, that would have been perfect. But we'll have to wait and see with that one. But yeah, I know I liked what they did. It's just they could have done more on the defensive side of the ball, and then also finding maybe a legit CB1. That's not like Dante Jackson's good, but we don't know yet about Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still. Great rookie seasons, but are they really like your two cornerstones? And yeah, having two corners that are cheap is great, but I would have liked a nice, strong veteran. That would have been good. So,
but a couple of years ago, when Denver traded for Russ, and I know the Raiders, I forget exactly what they did, but it was like that. I remember I jokingly called it the nuclear arms race of the AFC West. And this offseason has felt kind of similar to that in that every single one of the teams got better.
Yeah.
And we are now going to move to the Raiders. But before we get there, Marcus Newsom says that Goff wins the MVP and says that the Bills are a hot mess. We will get to the Bills because
Bills are fine, Marcus. You don't know, man. The Bills are fine. Trust me.
But let's get to the Raiders.
With Romeo's burner?
Maybe. But I hope you appreciate this little troll of the Raiders that I did here. They're still in jail.
Oh.
But the first thing that they did was get rid of Tom Telesco, your boy Tom Telesco.
Tommy T, baby.
And bring in
I can't believe it. He drafted Brock Bowers. Yeah, fucking a 2-year-old could have drafted Brock Bowers. Fucking Nimrods.
They bring in John Spytek. But on top of that, Antonio Pierce, he had a tough road ahead of him, man. He really did. Because there's only so far that you're going to be able to get with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. But it is what it is. And so they bring in Pete Carroll. And part of that is firing Luke Getsy during the season last year. And now they bring in Chip Kelly. And that's going to be interesting, this Chip Kelly offense in 2025. There were arguments that could be made that Chip Kelly was ahead of his time when he was in Philly, and he just needed to go back to college and let that style of offense marinate a little bit further and let the NFL catch on to what was happening in college. And now coming back into the league as an OC is interesting. So we'll see how that works out. But you see that their departures, not too bad, not like too crazy. Obviously, the Robert Spillane and
Moorhead,
like that's kind of bad. But like the rest of it, they didn't really lose too much. But the question was, what are you going to do to fix this offense? And really, Pete Carroll said, well, I have a solution. I'm going to bring in the guy that John and Chase months later is going to say is the new Dalton line. And he's going to bring in Geno Smith. And reuniting Geno Smith and Pete Carroll, I think, is a really interesting move. It definitely improves the Raiders' passing attack.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, for sure. There is kind of a little bit of a joke there about whether or not it's Pete Carroll's attempt again to prove that he was not the problem in Seattle between him and us. But their additions, it's so funny. I kind of feel bad, man, because like you have Raheem Mostert coming to Vegas, and I'm sure he didn't think he was going to be the lead back, right? But
No.
like he's like, I'm gonna get some opportunities here, right? And then meanwhile in Los Angeles, you have Najee Harris going, I'm gonna be the lead back, and I'm gonna have lots of opportunities, and both of them get kind of screwed over by the GM's decisions, the same GM that signs them. But you have Raheem Mostert coming in, Geno Smith, Jeremy Chin. I really liked as a pickup for.
Oh yeah, huge pickup.
Particularly because you're going up against Lad McConkey, Cortland Sutton, and Xavier Worthy and/or Jalen Rowles and Rashee Rice. Like that, you need to be able to have lockdown safeties, lockdown corners in the AFC West, simply because the other teams have lockdown corners and lockdown safeties. So if you don't, it's just that one game-breaking play. Like all it takes is that 3rd and 10, and then Cortland Sutton gets a 15-yard reception, and that's just what changes it. Or you have a 2nd and 5, and randomly you're expecting a run, and Lad McConkey goes streaking down the field, and it's just boom. It's a 40-yard gain. Could be a touchdown. Who knows? That's going to be dependent on whether or not you have a good secondary. And so bringing in Jeremy Chin, I really like that. Re-signing Max Crosby, that's, would have been nice if he had gone elsewhere. If he was made good on his promise of I want to win.
But what's this?
they then turn to we turn to this draft, and Ashton Genty, say whether or not he is the second coming of who, insert name here, remains to be seen. And he's going to be going up against 3 stout defenses 6 times a year. So that's going to suck. But if he can find a way to make it move, then this offense is going to be lights out, or it can be lights out, because you've got Genty, you've got Brock Bowers, and you've got this quietly competent, quietly sneaky good, does not get talked about Jacoby Myers.
Yeah.
What do? You add to that, you bring in a guy like Jack Betch. Now, I know you're not as high on him as some other people are, but I mean, if Tom Brady says that this guy reminds him of Wes Welker and Julian Edelman, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I just look at the school he went to, John. That's it. I'm just saying.
The rest of this
Jalen Reagor and Quentin Johnston, they're blowing up the league, right? TCU, yeah. I'm just saying. Can you name me a TCU wide receiver that you were like, wow, this guy was great? Can't.
I mean, Quentin Johnson was great for me as a Broncos fan.
Yeah. I mean, did he not catch the longest pass against Pat Surtain this season? He did. I'm just saying facts. Quentin Johnson did kind of.
All right, so then we can name a TCU receiver. That's
his only claim to fame. That's it. Besides dropping every ball that's crucial, like oh god.
But the other thing that allows an offense to move, and the other thing that allows you to be good against a stout defense is offensive line. And you see they have back-to-back tackle picks. They're trying to rebuild and build up this offensive line. They're bringing in guys like Alex Kappa from Cincinnati, and maybe Kappa's not the best out there right guard, but he's better than what they had. So bringing in these people and allowing this to kind of work together and gel together, and more importantly, it's a brand new locker room, with the exception of Gino, who has never heard Pete Carroll talk about his weird, like, life is amazing shit. So how that all is going to work out, I'm interested to see. But what did you like about the Raiders offseason? I know I had it higher than you did.
I was just surprised that Jeremy Chin went so cheap. He was so good for Washington last year, and then he just takes this quick little. So it kind of fills the hole that Morrig left, because Chin's just a little bit older. But yeah, like the Raiders, they did a good job because, and I had to put them on the list. They re-signed Max Crosby. They convinced Max Crosby to stay. He's one of the best defensive ends in football. He's a nightmare, bro. Like, I swear to God, dude, this guy. I don't know. His motor doesn't stop. He plays a lot of snaps. He's good. Like, he gets after the quarterback. He stops to run. He's a. I have no disrespect for Max Crosby. I just didn't want to see him every fucking Sunday. That's it. Like, I just didn't. I'll just be that honest. I'll be that honest. I just didn't want to face him twice a year again. Like, that's it. He's too fucking good. Like, I'll admit it.
Like, I doubt that there is a AFC West quarterback like text chat, but like at the time, right, there really wouldn't have been a Raiders quarterback. But like I can just imagine somehow, some way, Bo, Herbert, and Mahomes talking to each other like, this guy stayed?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I bet you when they have to kick Minshew out of the group chat, they're like, all right, Minshew, you're out. Brought in Gino. They're like, Gino, welcome to the AFC West quarterback group chat. Gino's like,
and Gino's first text to the chat was, I'm gonna break all y'all jaws.
hey, he's a former Chargers quarterback, Geno Smith. He learned from Phil Rivers, and that's why he's good and stuff. But yeah, no, I like what the Raiders did, and especially the addition of Genti, a blue chip prospect. You pair him with another blue chip prospect in Bowers. You can't hate that. It's one of those where it's like, this will make the Pete Carroll experience for the first year not as horrific as it could have been. That's just the honest truth. Like, what they did was added good quality players, didn't break the bank for them, put them on cheap little deals, and they can break the bank next year. If it ends up being a good season for the Las Vegas Raiders next year, they have all this money, they'll be able to do stuff. Raiders have a great history. Raiders are in Vegas. Easy to convince NFL players to come to that team. And then especially if you're a defensive lineman and you have Wilkinson and then you have Max Crosby, you have those two studs. It makes it a lot easier to say, yeah, I'll go play with those guys. Like, I'm not expecting to do much. I just got to make sure these guys get after the quarterback. Stop the run if needed. So it's like, it's easy. It's easy for them. So I like what the Raiders did. I think we can't bash them because they fixed the major hole at quarterback. They had a horrible QB situation last year. And and I didn't think they gave up too much to get Geno. Thought it was a great trade for them to get Geno Smith. I thought Seattle kind of looked like idiots in that trade, and to be honest. And you can't hate that they kept one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, one of the best players in the NFL, Max Crosby, a top 20 player right now. So how can you say, oh, they had a bad offseason? You kept one of the best players in the NFL, not just his position, players. Gotta say they did good, and they keep adding talent, and hopefully it pans out for them.
Yeah. Now, what I think is interesting is that so the Raiders, I had them as number 2, just because of the addition of Geno, the addition of Genti.
You like that Chip Kelly pickup? You think Chip Kelly's going to change the game again?
Bringing in Pete Carroll, just because of what they had previously, I was like, this is such a huge step up.
I still like Pierce. I think Pierce is. I think Pierce.
That's fair.
Like Pete Carroll, like he just seems like he's like the troll. Like he's just there to troll Peyton and Harbaugh. Like and Andy Reid. Like he'll get under their skin, and that's why you brought him in, is because he can still do that so well.
Actually, now that I think about it, are we the only division that has a head coach that every team has a head coach that has won a Super Bowl?
Well, Harbaugh's never won. He's been in a Super Bowl, but he's never won.
Shit. I was thinking
he won a national title.
Sure. Well, that's like half.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's one of the few coaches to win both.
Yeah.
Harbaugh's won a national title.
Oh yeah, I had a moment. I'm confusing John and Jim.
I wish we had John Harbaugh. He'd be cool.
So I had the Raiders at 2, and you had the Raiders at 5, right?
Yeah.
So that is the second largest discrepancy between where we had teams. We are now going to talk about the team where it was the largest discrepancy. You had the Bills at 3, and I had the Bills at 7.
Oh,
so still having a good off season. I mean, comparatively, there's 32 teams, but let's talk about this Buffalo off season.
Oh, look, I'm just going to defend myself. They re-signed Josh Allen. That's it. They re-signed one of the best players in the NFL. Like,
listen, here's my thing. I love Josh Allen.
Yeah, he's great.
He'd be one of the bloodline. All right, you got to see him 2 times in the worldwide dynasty league.
Hey man, I'm ready for it. I have Jaden Daniels.
That's true. Shout out. You have Jaden Daniels because Nick traded him for me. But
I have Jalen Hurts too, so I got.
Listen to that. And you got Amari Hampton.
The Bills, they improved this roster. Look, Josh Allen. Everyone's gonna say they re-signed his favorite target and Khalil Shakir. They got Greg Rousseau. Yeah, we didn't. Huh?
I agree with that idea. Yeah. But one, like, yes, you re-signed Khalil Shakir, but how good is Khalil Shakir really?
It doesn't matter because Josh Allen's there and he'll make anyone good. Like watch Palmer.
Whoa.
Watch my dog Palmer
That is
have
not
a
true.
good.
That
Yes.
is not true. They traded Cleveland for Amari Cooper. What did Amari Cooper do on the Bills?
No, because Amari Cooper realized it was cold and he didn't want to play good. That's on him.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you, Josh Allen is great. Joshua Palmer is going to have a good season. I love what they did on the defense too. They got guys that will get up to the quarterback. Like
absolutely, yes.
You got Bosa, like on his final legs. You got that Michael Holt, who was good for the Rams. I just think what the Bills did is minus secondary. That's the only reason why they weren't higher. They would have addressed the secondary, would have put them higher. But you re-sign Josh Allen. You have the receivers that I know Josh Allen will make into studs. Like Palmer's the perfect receiver for Josh Allen. He doesn't separate from routes, and Josh Allen can just he can catch a 50-50 ball. That's what Palmer will do for you. He won't lose his target. Like the cornerback will be draped all over him, but he'll catch it.
It just was like, to me, it felt as though they needed more wide receiver help, and it's a combination of things.
They got it. They got Shakir and Palmer. What more do you need?
Calm down. And they
my God, you're ridiculous.
They had Dalton Kincaid take such a massive step back.
Yeah, that's on him.
I would have been intrigued at, I get it as a round 5 tight end, but like, I don't know, it just feels as though something's missing there, in the sense that it's really funny because we are now flipped, right? Because last year we were talking and you were like, who is Josh Allen going to throw to? And I was naming the names. And now I'm like, I saw Josh Allen.
I saw Josh Allen's season this year, and
I saw him throw these people. And a part of me is like, yes, he was able to get the job done during the 17-18 game stretch of the season. What I'm concerned about is the AFC title game. That's what I'm concerned about.
And here's the concerns that it got fixed: Joey Bosa, Michael Holt, and all these defensive players they drafted.
You're saying the addition of these pass rushers is what's going to make the difference.
Yes, because that's what cost them the game, was the fact they couldn't get after Mahomes.
But they also couldn't go punch for punch.
No, but if they get after the quarterback, they don't have to worry about going punch for punch. Look, they also need to resign. They just need to re-sign James Cook. Stop dicking around. This guy's fucking terrific. Him and Josh Allen is a scary backfield. Just re-sign him. Don't give him whatever money he wants. You can cut him or trade him later. It's okay. You guys are Buffalo and something like that. But I just think that they lost that game because the defense couldn't stop the Chiefs when it mattered the most. When that defense, and especially when they lost their corners, the main corner, and they had to put Kyer Elam out there, and that guy was lost every other fucking play and just couldn't stick to his guy. That's when it got bad for them. And it was because the pass rush was just not there. I think they saw what the Eagles did, and they said, we just need a shit ton of D linemen to kill Patrick Mahomes. That's it. And Josh Allen, he showed to me that he's one of these guys. It doesn't matter who his receivers are. He will get them the ball. He will do a great job with it. And him and James Cook, when they're both, and then let's not forget about Ray Davis now.
No.
They get that play together. Like, I think the Bills are fine. And I think getting Josh Allen back, signing him to this great deal, it's perfect. Like, they had a great offseason. Like, out of all the other teams, Josh Allen.
I threw this in here because I thought it was hilarious. He was already on a 6-year, $258 million deal. He did not need to be extended. They were like, fuck it, let's give him $300.
Yeah. Keep him there forever. He's their guy. He is the great hope for Buffalo. Does that mean Buffalo wins the Super Bowl this year? I don't know, but I'll say when I go to Vegas to do my usually futures, they might be on the ticket.
Well, another team that will be in contention for being on the ticket, at least representing the AFC side, is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. And you had them second, I had them third.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this Ravens offseason, man. This is okay. Let's get the big one out of the way. Justin Tucker is gone. But they kind of knew that Justin Tucker was going to be gone because they said, hey, we are going to draft a kicker for like the first time in forever with Tyler Loop. So they were in the loop when it came to being out on Josh Tucker. But what I thought was kind of interesting was all that stuff at the top, because the Ravens are a textbook of consistency with coaching. And here you see that they change out their secondary coach, they change out the assistant head coach, they change out the inside linebackers coach, and then they create new coaching positions: outside linebacker coach, assistant linebacker coach, a DB coach, and assistant special teams coach. So I'm intrigued as to what's happening there and why that's happening for the long term. Like whether this is a situation where, I don't know, like I'm just spitballing here. Like, is this something where John Harbaugh is starting to get a little tired and he's just like, maybe it's time, and he is anticipating that, and he's talking with the team and he's like, let's create a shit ton new coaching positions. We'll get a shit ton new people in here.
Yeah, it's like what Andy Reid did when he started coaching. That's what Reid did in Philadelphia, where that's how Harbaugh got his gig, to be honest, because they make up like a shit ton of positions for him to start out at, and that led to him becoming a special teams coach, which led him to becoming the head coach of the Ravens.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I can really gather from that. And so a part of me is like, I don't know if like, so yes, this was a great offseason, but the question to me is, will we look back on this offseason differently, knowing that potentially, 2 years from now, John Harbaugh is no longer there, because John Harbaugh really is the engine that makes the Ravens move. That energy, that optimism that he brings to the team, but how he coaches those players up is a real testament to the Ravens' success. And it's interesting to see that, yet again, this is another year where Pittsburgh steals a linebacker from the Ravens. Last year it was Patrick Queen. This year it's Malik Harrison. We'll see how that works out for them. They finally get Deontay Johnson off the team. They cut him, brought him back, and now they let him go again. They lose Josh Jones to Seattle. They lose Patrick McCarry to Jacksonville. But there's a little bit of addition here because you have DeAndre Hopkins coming in. And now maybe, Hopkins, he's definitely past his prime. But there were like brief moments of flashes where he looked good in that Kansas City offense. And they don't really need him anymore, Kansas City, because they're going to get Rashee Rice back. They draft Jalen Royals. So they're like, we're not going to pay you. And he goes, all right, well, I'll find something elsewhere. And the Ravens said, a wide receiver who's actually kind of good, heck yeah, let's bring that guy in.
Yeah, we need to stop with this. Oh, this is where the receiver graveyard with DeAndre Hopkins is still good at football, guys. Like, let's stop. Like, yeah, let's stop with this nonsense. I think this was a steal for the Ravens to get him for the price tag and everything. Didn't have to trade any picks. Like $5 million, fuck it.
And I didn't put it on here because it wasn't a addition, but they do a contract extension with Derrick Henry to keep him in Baltimore for 2 more years. So man, I feel bad for those defensive players in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and Cleveland, because a lot of people were wondering, what do the Titans know that we don't know about Derrick Henry last year? And it turned out to be, what did all of us know that the Titans didn't know about Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I think we should just realize Derrick Henry is like one of those. I remember when he was being recruited at Alabama, everyone said he's going to be like one of the greatest Alabama running backs. So I was like, let me look at this high school stats. I couldn't believe it. This guy rushed for like 6,000 yards one season in high school. Like his high school stats are insane. He's been good ever since like high school, and so like there's certain football plays that are burnt in my head. Nothing's more burnt in my head than the college football semis against Michigan State. Henry, a big ass defensive tackle going after Henry. Henry stiff arms a 300-pound fucking man, makes him flip in the air, and gets a first down run. Not even like a touchdown or anything. I was just like, he's one of the greatest players I've ever seen. And yeah, I know, like his body, it's crazy. Like this guy is just he's not human. He's one of those rare freaks. When I think honestly, when he retires, he should be the first player. Fuck waiting 5 years. Just put him in Canton. You just put him in Canton. And it's just you just put Derrick Henry into Canton.
We gotta say, or we gotta think about how different the NFL would have looked if the Titans had just been like, yeah, I know we paid all this money to DeMarco Murray, but what if we just try this Derrick Henry rookie out, as the lead guy? you got to wonder how different those years would have looked for the Titans, for the AFC South, and for the NFL in general.
Yeah,
But
they were kind of freezing him his rookie year.
yeah,
That's the only thing that hurts Henry was like his first couple years in the NFL. He didn't really translate, but it was like he didn't really get the chances or the opportunities because they
and
decided
so
to pay DeMarco Murray.
it's interesting because like if you don't pay attention and you just look at the number of years he's been in the NFL, you go, this running back should have a shit ton of tread. But because he wasn't the starter for like 2-3 years in Tennessee, the amount of tread on him at the NFL level is much less. So the Titans, man, yeesh. And now look at them. They're trying to figure out like who's going to be the running back. They're consistently trying to figure that out.
Hey man, maybe Will Levis can be the running back. He is speed.
Come on. But when
could you imagine a trick play? Cam Ward just looks back. Will Levis throws the deep bomb, and either gets intercepted or it's a touchdown. I'm just saying.
But when you have two amazing players who can run the ball between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, you know that at any given point in time, not only can you just completely control the game through the run. I mean, look at those like 2 drives during that Ravens Pittsburgh playoff game. They didn't throw the ball. They just kept running the ball and dared Pittsburgh to stop them. And Pittsburgh was like, listen, like we can, but we just don't want to. But when you do that and you have that ability, what you need to do is go, all right, well, if we're going to try to play ball control offense, we know that the opposing offense is going to be throwing the ball like crazy because we are killing the clock. So what are we going to do? We're going to try to build one of the best secondaries we can. And they already have great players in the secondary, but luxury picks happen when players fall, and Malachi Starks falls to the Ravens at the back end of the first round. And even from then on, if you look at the rest of this draft, good offensive line pickups to try to shore up that O-line that is starting to age and is starting to get older, and that's going to be a problem for Lamar down the road, but they're trying to get ahead of the problem. And on top of that, they're continuing to build up more and more and more of this defense because they keep losing linebackers to Pittsburgh for some reason. But what are your thoughts overall on this Ravens draft and this Ravens offseason?
Yeah, I thought the Ravens draft, they killed it. Like we said, it was one of the best drafts. Getting Malachi Starks, they didn't care about the Mike Green shit. They were just like, I don't know, like he seems like a good football player. We'll just take him. Who cares about his off the field issues? We'll deal with that when it comes. Like they obviously did it, but I just like adding D Hop because I think it just adds another receiving threat to them because we saw what happens when Flowers got hurt because Flowers was kind of like one of the main reasons why Rashad Bateman had, like a good kind of breakout season for himself because Flowers was like the main target. But then when Flowers was either out of the games because of injury or teams shut him down, there was no one else that Lamar could trust. One thing about Diop is this guy can still get up and catch the tough catches, man. Like he still has the hands, like minus the Super Bowl where he made that one big blunder and stuff, but he's still a very, very good receiver in the NFL and someone that is going to help out what Lamar does and be able to catch those 50-50 balls, which is very important. Zay Flowers, he's not a 50-50 ball guy. He's a speedster. He's a guy that likes to get in space. Can't really do that with Zay Flowers. Like you can't have it where you're trotting out. Like I don't know. They had some guy where like number 12 playing wide receiver for them last season. Like you can't trot that out there. Like if you want to win a Super Bowl, you can't. DeAndre Hopkins, that helps you out a lot. Getting Chibide Owuzwe, who kind of like had like an off season, like he wasn't as good as he normally is, but taking him from a division rival and bringing him in, like, hey, I think that's a good. I mean, he played for the Titans last year, but he was a Bengals cornerback before. He just didn't have a good season for the Titans, but still think it's a good pickup for them. So yeah, I think honestly, the Ravens did everything that they needed to keep shoring up that they're going to be AFC favorites. They're going to be one of the top teams in the AFC, and they're going to be a team that can threat. They just have to get over their mental hurdles. Whatever mental hurdles they have, they just have to get over that. I don't know what it will take, but they have a team that can win the Super Bowl. That's for sure. Them and the Bills, they both can win Super Bowls, and that's why I had to put them high up in the top of the off seasons was just because, look, when you are a team with the Super Bowl roster, you didn't lose a lot of key pieces. You filled in the key holes and you drafted well. I gotta put you up there because you maintained what is the hardest thing to maintain.
Yeah.
Is the Super Bowl roster. Like we've seen it with the Niners, how bad off seasons or not being able to fill in holes or find players that can replace that has kind of costed them that Super Bowl roster that they had, that Super Bowl window, especially being a playoff. Like there's a difference between like we both have the Bears as offseason champs, but it's just because of what they've added. And when we get to them, we'll explain it more. But when you're a team that has a good roster and you are Super Bowl contenders and you're able to keep adding on to it instead of losing players like most Super Bowl winning teams or Super Bowl rosters do, they end up losing players, key players. To keep just filling the holes and making it where your team is still consistently good and we still believe during this offseason that, hey, yeah, we can see the Bills or the Ravens or both in the AFC Championship come January. That's the thing with both these teams. I feel like both of them could be in the AFC Championship. I feel like one of them could make the Super Bowl. And they did enough to keep that roster in balance, finding a way to get key pieces. And I just like what Baltimore did more because I felt they got more day one starters out of the draft. I felt they helped out Lamar on the offensive side of the ball, and they filled a little bit of holes on defense. And the one thing about the Ravens is they keep turning that roster around every single freaking week. Like they'll sign players, they'll do this, they'll do that. So yeah, no, like the Ravens are great. Can't hate what the Baltimore Ravens did.
I mean, granted, the rest of the season broke the way it did, but like we're talking about the Ravens that were 12-5 last year, and if Isaiah Likely's foot is in bounds during week 1, they are 13-4, and the Chiefs drop from 15-2 to 14-3. And then you also have the Bills where it's like all you needed was one thing to change slightly different in a game maybe, and they would have had control of the AFC, and that game would have been played in Buffalo as opposed to Kansas City. So like there's little things here and there, like the Ravens, like maybe you just have different little things that change for the Ravens, and it's like those are the, we talk about how football is a game of inches, yeah, like that loss where they suddenly lose in October to Cleveland, 24-29, they lose. That changes, and the Raiders, everybody was like low on the Raiders, but then all of a sudden the conversation changed after that week 2 game because the Raiders upset the Ravens by 3 points. It's 26-3. Like those little things that change can change an entire season, and if those things break for you, we may have been talking about the Ravens or the Bills in the Super Bowl and not the Chiefs. So yeah, there's a lot to be said for that ability to maintain it, because to your point, just this offseason alone, the Niners are losing Dre Greenlaw, losing Hufanga, losing Deebo Samuel. Granted, they traded Deebo, but like it kind of, the writing was kind of on the wall that like there's something broken here in the relationship between player and organization. And to go back to what we were talking about earlier, a lot of that is that mental process of we got to a Super Bowl, we lost. We almost got to another Super Bowl, but Brock got hurt. Then we got to a Super Bowl and we lost. And it's just like, how do you maintain that cohesion? And that's why this John Harbaugh situation is so interesting to me, because I look at it and I go, John Harbaugh is the engine that makes the Ravens run. His ability to keep that cohesion is so important. And last year, they got such a shot in the arm with Derrick Henry that, yes, you didn't get to the Super Bowl. You didn't win the Super Bowl. Okay, cool. But you saw what could happen. And that's literally all he really has to say to these players, because it's like all you need to, like, you're telling me that you gave me 100% last season. But if you give me 105%, look at what we can do.
Yeah.
That's really the testament to why the Ravens had one of the best off seasons. But we do have the Bears as back-to-back off-season champs. But
oh man, they won the Super Bowl before it even happened. Let's go. We did it again.
You can look at that bear with the shocked face. We did it again. But yes, the Bears did do it again, because starting at the top, They got rid of Matt Eberflus and brought in Ben Johnson. They fired Shane Waldron during the season. They had Chris Betty elevated. They let him go as the offensive coordinator because Ben Johnson is the offensive coordinator at this point. And they lose Eric Washington as the DC, but they bring in Dennis Allen from the Saints, former head coach of the Saints, who not like a terrible defensive coordinator. So
no, he's a good DC. He was just a horrible head coach. Hey, what happened to my dog, the Saints head coach, the Saints interim, Darren Rizzi? Where he go?
Let me look that up because I think he went.
Hey, if I was starting a team today, Rizzi would be my head coach. Will Levis is my quarterback, bro.
I'll tell you where he went. He is the assistant head coach / special teams coordinator of your future AFC West champions, the Denver Broncos.
Oh man, dude, he's gonna clog all your toilets, dog. Oh,
but
so fun though. So in Madden, they never really put the interim coaches, but for the Saints, they actually put Rizzi as like the head coach. And they named the playbook after him too. They have So I said I'm going to take control of Rizzi and I'm going to make him the greatest head coach of all time. And I did it. I got fired from the Saints, which I was fine with. And then for whatever reason, the Commanders had a job opening, and Rizzi took over the Jaden Daniels led Commanders and won 3 Super Bowls. John, it was great. Retired as one of the greatest head coaches of all time. Could have been 5. But I choked some.
Funnily enough,
I choked some good game.
Funnily enough, I'm doing a Commanders franchise right now because normally I don't play with running quarterbacks because I don't generally like running quarterbacks in real life.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? Let me just see. Like, what is it like to be able to? And first off, holy shit, it's amazing.
Yeah. Broken.
But listen to this nonsense. I take the Commanders to the Super Bowl. This happened today. Take the Commanders to the Super Bowl. The second play, Terry McLaurin breaks his finger.
Oh, no.
With 1:51 left in the first half, I have to, because for some reason I'm playing against the Jets because they were like, Aaron Rodgers is good in this game. And the rest of the Jets were great in this game. But I'm playing against the Jets. I'm trying to run away from Quinnen Williams on a play action deep shot, the one where it's your X receivers up and then so I'm trying to run away. I get to the first down, but Jaden gets hit. What happens to Jaden Daniels? Broken ribs, out for the game.
Oh no!
I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. I need Marcus Mariota to try to win this game. 2 minutes left in the game. This thing is tied 28-28. First off, I was like, this is what dreams are made of. Like, if this was real life, this is what dreams are made of. But Commanders have the ball, and I'm at the 40-yard line of the Jets, and somehow, some way, 35-28 Commanders. I don't know how. I'm just like, we're going to run the ball with Brian Robinson because that's really all we have left. And
Brian Robinson's so broken in Madden. He breaks every fucking tackle, dude. Like, I swear, when I had him, he like every tackle, he just would break tackles. I was like, this is great.
But yeah, so we're talking about this this Bears offseason.
Oh, I have a Jaden Daniels story I want to share real quick in Madden. It was 3rd and 26. And so then I couldn't find a wide receiver open. I said, fuck it. I'm going to send it with Jaden Daniels. He ran all the way for a touchdown. And then Darren Rizzi was so happy on the sideline. I've never seen my dog more happier. And I kind of don't want to root for Rizzi anymore, dude. He was kind of my guy last year. But
deep down inside, you want to be a Broncos fan. It's all
right. He might clog your all's toilets, dude. Like, you guys would like, Bo Nix has to take a shit, and Darren Rizzi clogged the toilet.
But the Bears have to do a lot because of Jaden Daniels, because everybody's looking at them going, you could have just had this guy. You had the number 1 pick, and you went with Caleb. And yes, we're hearing a lot of stories about Caleb didn't want to be drafted by the Bears, but also then when he got there, the dysfunction that was there. So the Bears said, let's figure this whole shit out. Let's bring in Ben Johnson. They win the Ben Johnson sweepstakes, and they start losing players in free agency. They lose a lot of people from the offensive line. There's 2 guards and 2 tackles. Now, you can make an argument that who cared if you lose them because the Bears' O-line was terrible. So, hey, maybe it works. You have addition by subtraction in essence. But what they do coming out into free agency is kind of what was interesting to me. You bring in a defensive tackle like Grady Jarrett, and more importantly, you sign Drew Dahlman from the Falcons. And everybody kind of knew that the Falcons weren't going to be able to re-sign Drew Dahlman. The question was, where was he going to go? And the Bears won another mini sweepstakes of sorts by being able to sign Drew Dahlman as an anchor piece for that offensive line. And then they go, all right, we started here. Let's build from inside out. And what do? They trade the Rams and they trade the Chiefs to get Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney. Great pickups. Now, maybe Joe Thuney is a little bit past his prime, but he was definitely better than Tevin Jenkins and Matt Pryor. That's for sure. Then you turn to the actual draft and you go, all right, we're not re-signing Keenan Allen. So now we have to have DJ Moore move back to that outside spot. Maybe we move Rome into the wire 2 spot. What are we going to do for a slot receiver? Maybe we move Rome around as a slot receiver. But what do we need to do? We're going to go get Luther Burden III because he's going to fall in this draft. But on top of that, we already have Cole Kmet, but you know what's great? 2 tight end sets. Let's go get Colston Loveland as well. And so those 2 picks at the top, it's very intriguing because the number of pass catching options is amazing. And you and I talked about it, I think, last week or last show, the idea of if you're playing in fantasy, whether it's redraft or dynasty, it sucks because you're like, who do I pick in this situation? Particularly redraft. Redraft is going to suck if you're going for a Bears player because you really don't know who is going to separate themselves as kind of the top target or the alpha dog, particularly with the tight ends. Like maybe you believe DJ Moore will be the guy. Okay, cool. But it's almost, if you're in redraft, it's like I'm going to punt on Bears skill positions until next year, until 2026, when they kind of have this whole thing figured out. If you're in dynasty, it's more of a crap. You have to draft rookies.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you had that problem because the team that you took over from Nick had Cole Kmet. You had to go get make sure you got Colston Loveland.
Yeah, I couldn't risk it because, who knows? Because the thing with Ben Johnson too, he did the same shit with Brock Wright and Laporta. There was a lot of plays where it was like, oh yeah, this should go to Laporta, and then Brock Wright would catch the touchdown. So I know this guy loves running 2 tight ends when he gets the opportunity. So I had to get Colston Loveland. Otherwise, it's like, cool, yeah, Kmet, he's probably tight end 1 still, but what if Loveland catches more touchdowns?
And that
you gotta take their team.
And what's interesting about that, particularly because I'm in that league with you, is part of the reason why you got Colston Loveland was I traded back into the first round, and I'm sitting there and I'm going, I really need a tight end, but I don't trust that it's going to be Colston Loveland as the guy. Am I going to burn granted, I didn't have to trade too much to get that first round pick, but I was like, am I going to burn that to get this tight end, or am I going to get a guy that I know I'm at least going to enjoy watching in RJ Harvey because I'm a Broncos fan? I'm like, I'm not going to take the risk. I'm going to let somebody else deal with this Loveland issue. And luckily it worked out for you because you were able to make sure you had Kmet and Loveland. But it's a wild situation right now with this offense to figure out how exactly it's going to work. And, they don't bring in anybody, at least so far, from free agency to give competition to DeAndre Swift, but they do draft Kyle Monangai with their last pick in the 7th round. How that's going to work out, that's another thing as well. We know Caleb has some legs with him. He is a bit of a mobile quarterback. So what is going to be, how that rushing game is going to go? The one thing that the Bears do know they have is a good defense. They've always had a good defense.
Yeah.
The question has been the offense. So they go, all right, we're going to work on this offense, but we're going to make sure that we shore up this defense as well with some of these draft picks. But I've talked enough. This is your second favorite team. What are the things you love about the Bears offseason?
I told you guys, too. I remember, too, everyone's like, oh, Ben Johnson's coming. Bears are going to waste their money on offense. And I was like, guys, how long have you been watching Chicago Bears? They love spending money on defense. That's just their MO and stuff. And they spent money on Grady Jarrett and Oenge from the Colts, who Collinsworth loved. Collinsworth, he thinks this guy's one of the greatest pass rushers he's ever seen. So that must mean something. But Grady Jarrett, that was the only contract I wasn't a fan of because he's kind of older and he hasn't really produced. But the one thing the Bears have been missing is, since, the Linval Joseph days and, when we had great defensive tackles, is that run stuffing DT. So maybe Grady Jarrett, he feels better playing there. We'll have to wait and see with that. I love the additions of Tooney, Jackson, and also Drew Dahlman. that shores up your offensive line. Those are three veteran leaders. Dahlman is one of the more underrated. Dahlman's one of those guys where like this will be the year everyone's like, oh yeah, Drew Dahlman, one of the top centers in the NFL. It's like he's been a top center. You guys just don't watch fucking Falcons games. You guys don't subscribe to NFL Plus like a sickle like me and watch all 32 cameras and watch this shit. This is what I would when I had my office job. Literally, once I finished like my tasks for the day, which weren't really that many, I would just go on NFL Plus and just watch film constantly and just enjoy it and watch football games. And Drew Dahlman's one of the top 5 centers in the NFL, and people don't notice because he's on the Falcons, and they're like, "Oh, this will be the year." You'll hear the commentators like, "Drew Dahlman, oh, it's still great." It's like he's been great since he's entered the league. Like he's been a good player. So getting
I was so surprised that I know the Falcons had the money issue, especially with the Kirk contract, but like I'm assuming they did, but like massage that salary cap as much as possible.
Like Drew Dahlman's great. Like you got rid of one of your best offensive linemen for what? Like made no sense. But good pickup for the Bears. Tooney, very great veteran at Kansas City, was asked way too much of him to play left tackle. Way too much. I know he can, but way too much to ask. And Jonah Jackson, he's always been solid. He's been a solid player. He has time, I believe, with Ben Johnson on the Lions. So Ben Johnson knows the type of player he is. But one of the things is it's not really like the players they signed or they drafted. It's the fact that they got the hot commodity coach. They got the coach and Ben Johnson. Like, when's the last time the Bears signed like a hot commodity head coach? Like, I guess you could say Lovie Smith. Like, that's the last time you can think of a hot, but he wasn't really that much of a hot commodity. It's just like he was a great.
I guess you could make an argument. Maybe John Fox.
John Fox was not a hot commodity. He was just a great name at the time. Fox was like a great. Fox was like a great name. Like it was a great name to get John Fox. Like we're talking about. This is the coach that everyone is saying will be the next greatest head coach in the NFL. Like that's interesting. Everyone wanted this guy. Like everyone, Jacksonville wanted this guy. The Raiders wanted this guy. It seemed like teams were literally throwing a checkbook at even last year. People wanted this guy. Like the Bears don't get, and not only that, a guy that's offensive minded. Because like the last guy that I can think of that's offensive minded the Bears signed was freaking Tressman, and he was like the CFL guy and stuff. And people were making that stupid D script hat. Fuck Mark Tressman, hate him, bum. But that's the thing.
Matt Forte, Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, and Jay Cutler couldn't get the job done.
Yeah, dude, what an idiot. He had a great team. Couldn't get Beemar at least one playoff game in his life. Jesus. But that's the thing. Like the Bears actually got the guy that can actually change the whole mindset of what this team is and what the Chicago Bears represent. Because my thing with the Chicago Bears is that they're a team that lives way too much on the fucking past. Like we get it. 85 Bears. I can only watch so many documentaries on the 85 Bears. I get it. One of the greatest teams of all time. I get it. All these Hall of Famers, draft picks, Singletary, I get it. But it's time to evolve. It's time to change. It's time to change the narrative. Yes, defense wins. Defense, a great offense. And you're going to get that great offense with Ben Johnson. And I think that's what makes the Bears offseason champions. Not just who they picked up. They got the head fucking coach. They got the guy, the hot commodity name. I don't expect it to be a clean fix year one. It took Dan Campbell how long to fix the line?
That's true.
I do think it will take a couple years, but this is a signing where it's like, hey, you got the quarterback now who's generational and Caleb Williams, and you got a guy and Ben Johnson who you hope unlocks that generational talent. If it works out, it's one of the greatest moves in Bears history. And we can stop talking about the 85 Bears and Mike Ditka and all the greatness that they provided. Like, oh, I get it. I love the 85 Bears. I get it. We get it. You haven't done shit. Let's stop living in the past. Let's start.
And that was literally 40 years ago.
Yeah. We get it. Like, look, I always tell people this: you have 10 years to celebrate your Super Bowl victory. So after 10 years, you got to stop talking about your Super Bowl. Like, it's like, we get it. We won in 2010. Cool, who cares? It's now 2025, buddy.
Hey, buddy. That's rich coming from the guy that doesn't have any.
No, if the Chargers won, I'm celebrating that shit for 10 years. Like Buccaneers fans, you're on the clock. Like, you can't. We get it. Brady got you one more Super Bowl. Awesome, great, glad you have that. It's look, if the Timberwolves win the NBA Finals somehow this year, I'm happy. I'll celebrate that for 10 years. I'll buy my 2025 Timberwolves merchandise. I'll wear it for 2 years before it's like, okay, it's kind of embarrassing that you're wearing the 2025 title shirt. Like, get over yourself, But
now intentionally I'm gonna wear the 2015 because it's 10 years ago. Broncos Super Bowl.
This is your last year to celebrate that Super Bowl. That's it. Afterwards, I don't want to hear it. Oh, we won the Super Bowl in 2015. Yeah, 2015, John. Get over it. You haven't won shit since. Like,
hey, man, I had a playoff game last year.
Yeah, I had a playoff game too. They both ended miserably for us. We both fucking suck. But yeah, no, the Bears, the thing is, it's finally time now. And I feel like this is such a great positive thing for the Bears. No more of this Chicago defense. Like, get that bullshit out of your heads, Bears fans. Think of the future. Think of what you can have. And what they have is playmakers now. They have the offense. They have the defense. They're a team that can compete. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that Caleb Williams takes a huge jump year two. Like, it's not. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And if Ben Johnson is this great hotshot head coach, if he is this next generational hot prospect, one of the greatest coaches we'll ever see, it's not crazy to say that the Bears could be that team this year. And that's why I think they always will get primetime games because they're the fucking Bears. But I think there's a reason why we're seeing them a lot on primetime this year and a lot at that 425 Eastern Standard Time kickoff game.
Is there?
Yeah.
Even more so than last year.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, guys, this is our teams that won the offseason, our top 10, and you saw that there was.
We're gonna get some 85 Bears fans are gonna be like, yeah, we still celebrate that the Super Bowl shuffle. Get over yourself. 40 years.
But you see, we had some discrepancies, some disagreements on where exactly the teams fit in. But that's one of the joys of doing this. We can all be wrong together. We can all be right together. It's the fun stuff. So we want to thank all of you guys for tuning in yet again to another edition of Tru Offseason. I don't know when it was a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks. What was the gap last time? We will, as news arises, the show comes out, and that's what we can promise. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in. As always, remember, take care of yourselves and each other. Chase, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on X at ChaseOver68, Around the Point Network, where I'll talk, unfortunately, about pro wrestling right now. I don't want to talk about it, but Steve needs someone to help him out. So,
come on, man. R-Truth has to face his childhood hero.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude! This is the stupidest thing I've ever. I don't know did you hear what happened to Collision tonight? What happened? The final boss.
I heard the feed died, and then Black Adam came on.
No, the final boss debuted on Collision, bro. What are you talking about? It was the greatest thing that came out. Had the Terramana. He was drunk. He was like, I don't want to see Wheeler Yuta wrestle. You guys want to see Wheeler Yuta wrestle? And then talked about his feud with Triple H. I don't know. You guys saw the wrong feed. I saw the feed where The Rock came out and he announced that he purchased AEW, and I don't know what's going on. So we will have to wait and see. This is the greatest cliffhanger in Collision history.
The name of the contract says McMahon, but not Vince McMahon.
Yeah, the name on the contract says Dwayne Johnson. That's who it is. No, but yeah, no, it's that if the WrestleMania hangover and both companies are trying their best to make me care. I just don't care right now. I just watch my good friends on Tru Heat talk about wrestling. I don't care about all these other people's opinions. They're all just like saying hot takes for the sake of or doing fantasy bookings that make no sense. Like, I'm just like, bro, what the fuck are you fantasy booking? Like, what? Like, huh? Like, why you guys want Austin Theory in this group? Like, stop it. He's still talented. He doesn't need this group to be.
Oh, one of the worst ideas that I saw was that Fraxium should join Seth Rollins' faction.
Yeah, let's ruin this cool tag team that's just fun, and make them.
My response was no. You get a big like Paul Heyman guys are normally larger in size, so you get a strong ass tag team, and you have Fraxium be the babyface fighting underneath.
Yeah, get some big guys, get some meaty men or something. I don't know, like something, do something. But yeah, you know, Cena and R-Truth, Jey Uso, Logan Paul, great shit. You know, it's what I asked for when I was watching wrestling. Honestly, I feel like once Roman comes back, then I'm back in. You know, like things are not the same without my tribal chief. You know, Roman Reigns, he's like the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I just want to see it, and I hope AEW just gets better after they figure out who's facing who at the All In show. Like I just feel like this pay per view, Tony Khan's like, fuck it. I was so focused on the draft. I got other teams. I'm trying to convince Travis Hunter if he wants to jump off a steel cage. Like like. What, dude? Travis Hunter's wrestling a match. I'm gonna put that on the cards. Like he's definitely wrestling a match for AEW at one point.
He's at least doing an appearance.
No, he's wrestling a match.
I don't know about wrestling a match.
No. They're gonna find a way to convince that guy, and he's gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm one of the best athletes." And they'll put him in the ring with like someone safe. Like they're not gonna go like they have Action Andretti. They could do Travis Hunter versus Action Andretti or something. Yeah, someone like that. Like I'm not saying like anything crazy, but. Just like
the first name that came to your mind.
No, I'm just thinking of a high flying jobber. Action Andretti is a high flying jobber. That's all this guy. I've never seen this guy win a match.
Come on now. He beat Chris Jericho and Jericho.
Oh, that's you know what? Screw Action Andretti. Travis Hunter versus Chris Jericho is happening.
Oh, that I would believe.
Yeah, that's a safe match. They can play up an angle like. Travis Hunter hurt his knee during the regular season, the walls of Jericho and everything. And then you get Shador can run in too. Like Shador throws a football at Jericho's head. Maybe he'll miss the first time he throws it, but then the second time he gets it.
No. It has to be the fifth time because he got drafted in the fifth round.
Oh yeah, it takes like 5 chances. Like dude, you could do so much. I think it would be a crime if he could not convince Travis Hunter to wrestle a match. That would make Travis Hunter like one of the greatest athletes ever. It's like not only are you a great wide receiver and quarterback,
if he was trying to do that, Liam Cohen would like physically die. Like,
Liam Cohen can't even say Duval correctly.
I know, but like he would be like wait a
minute. Hey Tony, what is my wide receiver cornerback doing in AEW? What's he doing there? Like this guy don't know what plan. The GM on the Jaguars don't know what's going on. This guy looked lost during the Travis Hunter press conference. He was like, oh, like I saw Paul Puzludny. This motherfucker. What? He was trying to big up Travis Hunter. Like, what the fuck's this? Like, goddamn, what a circus the Jaguars are. That's why they didn't make this list. Yeah.
All that work that Tony Khan did and didn't make the list.
Yeah.
But guys, we want to thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll catch you all later.
When you guys see Travis Hunter, Chris Jericho, just remember I called it.